has been duly called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now have roll call. Darrell Owens.
Here.
Felicia Moody.
Here.
Maria Douglas.
Here.
Debbie Villagomez.
Here.
Sean Glovier.
Here.
Andrew Bisco.
Here.
John Clark present. We have a full board. Thank you all very much. Item 3, public comments on agenda items. Can you pull those for me, Sean? We have no one who has signed up to speak on public comments on agenda items. Moving to item 4, public comments on non-agenda items. We have no one who signed up to speak to us on public comments on non-agenda items. We'll now move to item 5, special district recognitions. Mr. G.
We have quite a few, and so I know we got a lot of reports tonight, but we've got a lot of people who've been busting their tails at our campuses, and so let's go ahead and give them recognition tonight. So we got Allison Middleton, she's received 4 Paul Awards. Jeanette Tate, Candy Allstott 2, Carolyn Cullum, Chef John Bowles 3, Christy Vick 2, Coach Justin Daniel, Dee Dee Grimes 2, Earl Oaktie, Ida Kelly, Jennifer Hawkins 2, Jessica Harris, Kaylee Vaughn, Katie McBroom, Kylie Robinson, Lindsay Hammonds 3, Melinda Knappenberger, Marissa Echtel, Melissa Springfield, Michelle Petrie, Monica Stevens, Gerald Hyde, Lauren Rosser, Stephanie Zena, Tammy Berger, and Tracy Hadaway. And at the Success Center, Coach Jody Littleton. At the junior high, Joshua Hawks, Margaret Owens, she's received 2. And then at Arthur Intermediate, Ashley Rogers, Carolyn Neal, Claire Watson, Irene Owens, Josh Smith, Kim Hamlin, Christy Merle, Lauren Long, Odetta White, Paulina Navarro. At Delaney, Alexia Hill. At Patterson, Angela Hamilton, Brittany French, Demisha King, Darren Lumen, Jana Carter, Crystal Rice, Margaret Mormon, Odell Nickel, Priscilla Hightower, Tanya Widner. In the central office, Brandon King, Dr. Toya Keys, Aaron Martin, and Julie Huggins. So everybody give those people applause. The Positively Awesome Wildcats are employee recognition, and that comes from their peers, so we want to make sure that we recognize them. This month is also National Principals Month, and we always do the recognition from the governor. That he always has a declaration. We're going to skip that this year, and we're just going to sit there and do our own recognition of it. So if we could have our principals come down, please, I would like to present y'all with some goodies.
Candy flowers and candy.
Me being the not so creative person, I'm not going to take credit for this, but I'm going to give credit to Tracy. She helped me. You know, the sign says, was addressed to each one of you, but the declaration is basically, we would crumble without you. She's a creative.
Very good.
You don't know what these are.
The best cookies ever.
Are phenomenal. So I'll start down here on this thing because we want that way. All right, Ms. Spitzer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this is from Sunset.
Oh, okay, sorry, Al.
And it says, you are unbelievable.
I didn't know about that one either. Let's try.
Thank you.
Hands.
This is Clark. Good job. phenomenal job of keeping things floating in difficult times. So,
Yeah.
like I said, that was a very apt statement. So, thank you, Tracy, for helping out with that. And I think that is our recognitions.
Okay. Then we'll move to item 6, the consent agenda. All items listed under this subheading will be adopted with one motion unless they are removed from the consent agenda by a trustee for discussion. Does any trustee have a request to remove an item from the consent agenda? There was one notice about the minutes, that adjustment was made. Does anyone have a question? All right. So I will entertain a motion with regard to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve all items under the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Bisco,
Second.
second by Ms. Villagomez. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair hears none. That motion passes unanimously. Item 7 is personnel issues. Item 7A is resignations and retirements. Mr. G.
And those are listed, don't think we need to go through those. I know Ms. Cluck at the Patterson, she resigned and she went into a offer, and so she had a job offer that she couldn't turn down, and she was with the district for 19 years, and so that one hurt, but we wish her the best. The other ones are pretty self-explanatory. I do want to bring your attention to item 7C. We discussed this at the last special meeting, so we just need to take action on that tonight.
And I'm going to move all of our closed session items to the end so that people here don't have to sit around and wait for us to go in and come out. We'll try to move this through the night. So we're going to delay any action on 7C and 7D. Those matters will be taken up in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. And item D will be under 551.071 or 551.074. We'll now move to item 8, the superintendent report. Mr. G.
All right, so you have your district s'mores, and we have our principals with us tonight. If you have any questions on their s'mores, then please ask them if they have any questions for them. Okay, so hopefully you're getting good information there. That's keeping you updated with the campuses. Our attendance, I'll bring your attention to the attendance board. We are up and down, so for the year we are positive 2 students over what we were last year, but we are down on different campuses and up on other campuses. So the high school is up 30 students as of right now. The junior high is up 1. Kennedale junior high is down 35. Arthur Intermediate is down 21. Delaney's up 30, and Patterson is down 3. And our attendance is a little bit better, but still not where we want it. So we're still battling the attendance bug. But that's where we sit right now. We have a pretty mobile. We lose about the same amount as we gain. So we sit there. And the other report, bring your attention to the next page, would be our COVID numbers. They are tracking down. Good thing, Tarrant County is still up, but our numbers are tracked down. So that's pretty much my 2 things that I was going to speak of here, and I've got the other reports that I'm going to give in closed session.
And we'll move on to item, I'm sorry.
Mr. G, will you remind us what the goal is for attendance?
For what?
What the goal is? You said we're not close to our goal.
For attendance,
Yeah.
I'd say 90, well, we want to have 100, but I'd say 95.
95.
95 to 96.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
No.
Move to item 9, discuss and consider approval of architectural services contract with Huckabee and Associates, Inc.
Okay, we tried really hard to get that completed in time for tonight to have an agreement ready, but it's not going to be ready. So what we'll probably have to do is, when it is completed, call a special session and just to approve it.
Take what?
You give me the authority to negotiate it, but you have to approve it because of the amount.
Right.
So we don't have any action on that.
No action.
We're going to move to item 10. These are informational issues only, but we're going to move item C up first for the presentation from tutor.com. That'll be shorter than the campus improvement plans and counseling update.
evening. Since our students have returned from the summer and from last year, we've had an opportunity to assess our needs in a way that we hadn't done before since I've spoken with you. What we've recognized and identified is that our students need support. They need a lot of support, and they need support beyond just the school day. They need support before school and after school and on weekends and often holidays. And our staff, they are working themselves around the clock. They're working themselves to death, and it's not enough. Our students need more. And so we have been very blessed to have ESSER. So we talked previously about ESSER 3 funds. We also have ESSER 2 funds that are available for personnel related to closing the learning gap related to COVID-19. So what you have, I passed this out for you all. We get emails, maybe you do too, every day, multiple times a day usually, about all of these tutoring companies that have developed over the past weeks and months. So we have spent some time talking to these people, finding out more about their services, what do they offer, how much does it cost, what does the price include, what grade levels they serve, what subjects they tutor. And we have identified tutors.com as one of our top options. If we end up going forward with tutor.com, it would be above $50,000 for the option that we're looking at, which is for 7 through 12, unlimited access as often as the students want to contact for on-demand homework help, as well as subject-specific tutoring, as well as a tutor for SAT, ACT, and TSI, and then a set amount of hours for K-6, where parents could call in at any time, but it would likely be from 5 to 10. You know, it'd be a set amount of time with a set amount of hours. And so, because this would be a big decision and it would be a big purchase, not one that we're going to do tonight, but I've asked Tanya Walker. She is a representative from the company, and she is going to do a very brief presentation for you, just very brief, just what is available, what is offered, just to give you an idea, so that if I do come back to you in November and ask for you all to approve that, then you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, as he's actually pulling that out, I would actually, like, my name is Tanya Walker, and I actually represent two companies. So when you think about a resource to provide for your communities, I not only represent tutor.com, but I also represent the Princeton Review. Some of you may be familiar with Princeton Review for our test prep. Well, we're sister companies, and I represent both. And I'm pleased to be able to just share with you a tool that is valuable not only for your students, your teachers, but most importantly for your families. Especially when you think about last year, how many families were having to actually provide service for their students and they had nowhere to turn in for support. But tutor.com is a 24/7, 362 days out of the year, access for parents and students to connect on demand to a tutor. We have over 200 subjects from K all the way up to dual enrollment. When you think about our tutors are actually vetted. They have at least a bachelor's degree. They actually, if they're not a bachelor's degree, they're in the bachelor's degree program. But I also like to point out that we are the only and the largest partnership with the Department of Defense. We've been around for over 20 years and have over 21 million tutoring sessions with students. And what's most important about that is when you think about our partnership with the Department of Defense, any child who has a parent that is active in the military will have access to tutor.com right now, pre-pandemic. So when you look at tutor.com and the benefits of it is beneficial because it's one-to-one tutoring. They're not group tutoring, it's one-to-one tutoring for each student. The students can go on demand, so this afternoon, 7 o'clock, 7:30, a student can actually connect to a tutor on demand. There's a recording session for administrators if they want to see who's using the program, which subjects are students most likely asking for tutors. And then everything is recorded, so a student can always go back and review the program. So now my presentation's up. So my presentation's up here, but I wanted to reiterate that, again, it is for students, parents, teachers, administrators. And the other benefit is that you have Princeton Review. So your students will have access to SAT and ACT prep. Essential prep is not as in-depth as one of our courses, but students can actually go in and take practice tests, drills, and videos for them to prepare for college as well. There's a drop-off essays for students. So we help students from every area and from K through 12. And we have over 3,000 tutors here across the North America. And with those 3,000 tutors, we also have Spanish-speaking tutors that are available for students who would prefer to work with a tutor that's in Spanish as well. As well as with our tutors, again, we take pride in the fact that we take extensive background checks with all of our tutors. Not only do we do criminal background checks, social security number traces, but when your students connect, it's all either chat or voice. Your students will never see a tutor, and the tutor will never see their student's face. It is all voice or chat. So again, tutor.com is a resource for your parents, for your students, for your families. It's another resource for you to say, this is how we're supporting our students. And most importantly, that parent and that student who is studying for their Algebra 2 test right now, and they're stuck on polynomial equations, and they're stuck. And what do they do? At what time is it? 8 o'clock at night. How do they get help? Any questions about tutor.com and how we are serving your students and your families and communities?
One question
Yes.
for me. I understand, they would not see them, but is there a length for each one of the tutoring sessions? So for example, is there a 15-minute max, and then they have to dial back in to get reconnected for another 15 minutes, or how does that?
So when a
timetable-
student connects, they actually go on by demand. We will ask them several questions. What topic? What is their grade level, and what subject? So for instance, is it Algebra 1? I am in 9th grade, and they will have the opportunity to ask a question. And then within less than a minute, depending on the connectivity, they will connect to a tutor. When they connect to the tutor, students are much more familiar with this. They'll have a chat box where they can actually type and text with the tutor. And they can work on a whiteboard, where on the whiteboard they're using utensils to actually work through their problems, or they can upload any homework assignments that they have, and they can work with the tutor one-on-one. So your students will have the opportunity to connect, but again, it's chat or voice. So when our younger students, they can actually hear, they can actually use it where they can actually hear the actual tutor working with them.
So the
Did I-
tutor stays with them until they are finished? I
The-
think his question is, there a time limit?
Oh, there's no time limit. I apologize. No, there's no time limit. There's no time limit on there, actually. So when you have a session, some sessions may last 15 minutes, and we've actually have some sessions with students that are last 50 minutes. But your administrators will always have an opportunity to review the actual every session. They can actually review, see the session, and they can actually read the actual transcript. So there's no particular session. But if you want to, you can actually limit the time, if you wanted to limit the time for the students.
So in terms of the math work, you said it's a whiteboard, so the student's able to work the formula on the computer screen, and the tutor's working back, say, no, you carried this the wrong place? Does it work that way?
It works that way. So if they have a touch screen, or if they're using their mouse, they can actually work with the whiteboard, and they can write out the question. Oftentimes, a student may just say, I'm having trouble, I'm stuck. So then our tutors will pull from resources that they can put on the board, and they work the problem with the students. They never give them the answers. Never give the answers. If there's one frustration from students, is that our tutors never give them the answers.
And if by chance we have let's again, pick a tough math class, and all the kids are struggling with one concept, and they all hit at the same time, what happens?
We have 3,000 tutors.
Okay, so they'll all get service?
They're all get service. I would say the only challenge is if there's not much great connectivity where they are. That's the only challenge that you will have.
My last question is the feedback. Students don't always give a lot of feedback. How are we evaluating the effectiveness of these tutoring sessions for our students?
So there's two things that happen at the end of the session. One, the student will finish an essay and a survey at the end. We ask the students about their experience. So you'll get the feedback from the students if this is something that they would recommend to other students. Do they find this to be a valuable tool that's provided by their district? And they can actually have the opportunity to write their own quotes. Then secondly, the tutor will then evaluate their session. And the tutor will ask three main questions. One, did the student master the concept or skill that they came to the session asking questions about? Secondly, was this an extremely long session? Kind of going to your question, is extremely long session. And then lastly, did the student have the prerequisite knowledge? So when they ask those questions, it will send an alert if any of those questions are answered as no. And that will be alerted to your administrators that this particular student still needs assistance, additional assistance. So the reports, you will be able to have reports that pull to show you what areas or subjects most of your students are asking for assistance. So you'll be able to pull that. In which math section, for example.
And are there any particular devices, or can they access this on any device?
Any device. I always say if your students can use any of the social media platforms, they can use this. That it works. It works on your laptop. Works on your phone. So it's very accessible for students.
For younger kids or parents' phones?
Yes, and I will say with the younger children, you might want to use the laptop because their little fingers may not be, their little fingers going through the keyboards. You may want to actually use them with a laptop. Yes, students are better than us. Actually, they catch on a little bit quicker than I.
Well, one of the things, the reason I'm asking is because we are one-to-one
Mm-hmm.
for all grade levels, but we don't necessarily send the computers home to the students. They stay in the classroom with our younger students, so that they're not trying to transport it every day. That's why I'm asking, can they access it off of any device?
Absolutely. So if they have, what we have is our single sign-on capability, so your students can sign on any device. We have one of your neighboring districts where they actually have it on their homepage, where the students can just go on their homepage and connect if they just don't connect on their one-to-one
We
device.
use Clever.
Yes.
Is there a way, I'm just kind of trying to envision some things. Is there a way, let's say a 7th grader is struggling with something at home and they get home before their parents and they get on their iPad or Chromebook and they contact a tutor, and for whatever reason it's not being conveyed well enough? Is there a way to follow up from the tutor with
Yes. So
something to make sure that it's, the need is being met or the questions are being answered if it can't be conveyed well enough from a student?
yes. So what will happen? What I hear you saying is that your student has a challenge with a question. 7th grader is at home, logs on, and they're just having a little struggle trying to explain their problem. So two things can happen. One, remember that the administrators can always see the transcript. And if that student's having a struggle with conveying their challenge, it will do a red alert, an alert from the tutors. So then that alert will be provided in the actual dashboard with the reports. Two, the student can always log back in once their parent comes home. So you can log in as many times as you please.
Yeah, because I'm just envisioning someone that may not.
Oh, so I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You can request the same tutor.
So what you can do is you can identify your tutor as your favorite. So what we want is that students will come in and we want them to take a little bit of responsibility of their learning, if you will. So students first log on demand, so they connect with the tutor, because what we never want to happen is a student is only assigned with a tutor, but they're not connecting, if you will. So once the student is connected and they say, hey, I like this tutor, they can identify it as their favorite and then schedule to work with that tutor.
One last question. The follow-up that you mentioned, is the follow-up required to be the same style as the initial contact? For example, you may have children that prefer the chat, but you may have a parent that may be following up who prefers to hear a voice.
Yes, so whenever you connect, you have a choice, chat or chat and voice. At any point that you connect with the tutor, you have both those options. Mhm. And again, it's also, we have Spanish-speaking tutors available as well. And over 200 subjects, all the way up from AP to IB and dual enrollment courses.
Any other languages that you?
We have some Mandarin, but you would have to request that one Mandarin.
And I think I heard you said that a student would have the ability to like take a picture of something and send it to the
Exactly.
This is what I'm struggling with.
So what happens, if a student has a homework assignment, for instance, and they need help, they can actually take a picture and it uploads for the students. And that's where they'll work on that worksheet together. Or if they don't have anything that they're working on, and they just say, I'm struggling. If we go back to even with the essay, if I'm struggling to write an essay, they can upload an essay they're working on and work with it line by line with the tutor. And the essay reviews are done within 12 hours. They get a review on their strengths, weaknesses, and areas of improvement within 12 hours.
Is there a report that the parents get if their student is logged in?
So
a
what-
high school student?
So the reports, monthly reports are provided to administrators, and the administrators can pull reports on demand at any time. But after every session, the student has the ability to email that transcript to whomever, whether it be a parent. So at the end of their session, they can just email it to their parent. And they can watch the actual recording of the session.
So when I'm sorry. So when a student connects, is there? I'm just trying to think. Like, say there's a connection issue. When they log in, do they provide here's my email, here's my something?
No,
Well,
we don't.
How do they receive? How does it? did you
At
say
the
there's-
end of this, at the end of the session, at the beginning, our tutors never ask them for personal information.
Okay.
Never ask them for.
That's why I wanted to clarify
No,
that, because
no.
they're being
Yes, at the beginning, our tutors never ask for personal information. And our tutors, again, we don't see videos, so we don't know what the students look like.
Right.
At the end of the session, after the students click in session, then they have the ability to email it, put their mother or father's email address, and that transcript will send to them.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yes, the tutors will not ask them for personal information.
I know you said Department of Defense was a large
Yes.
group that you service. Other schools that you service, and do you have any data or reports on what percentage of the student body actually use the service?
Good question. So pre-pandemic, first let me tell you that tutor.com was originally Department of Defense, libraries, and higher education. That's where you found the tutor.com. And with a lot of our federal grants such as Gear Up grants actually adopted tutor.com to serve as their students in their cohorts. But post-pandemic, now we're finding several districts that need assistance. So when you start thinking about schools that we're working in, so one of our largest installations is with LA Unified. LA Unified started working with us last year. And I mentioned them because they're our largest, where we service about 80,000 students. And I mentioned that because we have capacity to provide customer service for our school districts. And when you talk about what is the percentage, there are several caveats with the percentage of students that use it. The main one is being able to provide the service and let the students know that it's available. So, and what I mean by that, is it accessible to them? Is it on your website? Is it something that parents and students can log in immediately and log in? So it varies per district based on the amount of implementation that is provided. Meaning, am I coming out and doing parent nights, which I can do. I do webinars. I can provide webinars, do parent sessions for your students. So other school districts here in Texas, Eagle Mountain, Keller ISD, San Antonio ISD, San Marcos ISD, DeSoto ISD. So this some of the ones that are here in this area. So now, again, it's now becoming a solution for some of our schools that they're looking at how they can support their students.
I just thought of another question. So, are your tutors able, if the student has language needs, do you have tutors that you match them up with?
So our tutors, again, the vetting process with our tutors is that, one, I want to make sure I understand that they're knowledge-based. All of our tutors must pass a 3-hour subject exam for every subject they want to tutor. So that's one of the prerequisites for our tutors. Secondly, we actually take them through our own training, where we identify what we call our 7 tenets of tutoring for students that are able to identify students that might be struggling. We identify students that might have language barriers, if you will. So they're able to identify that with their interaction with their students, with our trainings. So then they can actually adjust it from that point.
And I want to flip that. Do you outsource your tutors from other countries?
South America for our Spanish-speaking tutors. Our 3,000 tutors are here in North America, and we pride ourselves with that because if our students decide they want to do voice, there is not necessarily a accent barrier, if you will, for our students.
Just follow up. So I understand, like you said, the accessibility, the implementation of the program is really paramount to the use of the program.
Yes, ma'am.
But again, do you have any data that show in one of these schools,
Yes.
what percentage of students do sort of access this?
Well, I can give you an example of a school district, Eagle Mountain, and they would definitely agree with me on this. When Eagle Mountain started the program right before spring break, and when the students came back after spring break, they had access to the program. They purchased a number of hours, and within 2 weeks, they had used almost 50% of their hours. And again, it is because of how they actually provided the services for the students. They sent out notices to parents. They sent, it's on their website. If you go on Eagle Mountain's website right now, it will say free online tutoring for students. So, and I'm using them because they're close to home, and you serve around the same community of students. So what they decided to do is to purchase more hours to keep up with the demand. The other thing that they did was they actually began to limit the time. Instead of making it 24/7, they limit their time to 11 p.m. because they wanted to manage their hours. So when you think about the data, I don't want to give you false data because, again, it is based off of the district's implementation process as well.
Perfect. That was a great answer. I see in this one section here, it does talk about there's a per hour rate, a flat rate, and then you just kind of mentioned maybe a third
Yes.
option of purchasing a certain number of hours.
Yes, so it's actually two options.
Okay.
It's 2 options. Option 1 is that you will purchase a bucket, like we call it a bucket of hours. And all of your students have access to these hours, but they're pulling by the minute. So my session that you mentioned about math might only be 8 minutes, or as you mentioned about the timing, if it's an essay, it might take 50 minutes. So you're pulling from the bucket of hours that your students have access for a full calendar year. Or some districts decide, and for them, and management of hours, they don't want to have to come back and manage how many more hours they want to add. They will purchase just a flat rate for students' unlimited usage. And here's the pro with this and the con. The pro of having unlimited is that I can go in as many times as I want. I don't have to no one from your district is managing a bucket of hours. The con about that is that at the end next year, you would have to have another student license. But with the hours, if you purchase a bucket of hours, then what you did not use, 100% will roll over to the new renewal for the next year.
Can we get prorated this year, or is it a flat rate? Because this is October.
It's
So
a
we
calendar
start
year.
It's from year to year?
Yes, so if
it
you
would
start
be from
today.
December to December?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not with the school year, it's the calendar. So if your contract was today, October 21st, it will end October 20th in 2022. So your students will have access all throughout summer school. If they're in summer school, they will have access to the program. On spring break, Christmas break, if they're working on sessions, they'll have access to it as well. Unless you decide not to, because I've had some districts say we don't want students to use it during Christmas.
Are we allowed to change if we start on like a bucket of hours and we find our need is much higher, can we change contract mid-year, or we have to complete?
You have to complete the contract and then start another contract.
And this question is for Mr. G. We're looking to use, if we agree to this, the ESSER funds, 2.
One more follow-up
yes.
to the question there. So we have to finish the contract, but again, let's say if it's a bucket of hours, the contract would end when that bucket of hours is used up?
Yes, well, actually, if you renew with the hours roll over, the hours will roll over unused. So for instance, if you purchase 500 hours, it's 500 hours, and you find that your students, for some reason, they only use 200. You renew it for the next year, and those 300 you did not use will roll over.
Okay, so suppose we purchase 500, and like you said, in 2 months, we've used up 500. That contract is then ended, or do we have to wait the whole year before we can negotiate for another 500?
No, you can always add more hours into the contract.
Okay,
You can always add more hours. It's just that the ending of that contract is when those hours will end up. But you can, again, 100% roll over what you don't use.
okay.
I'm still not clear on that answer. So if she, say, to her point, if we use up the 500, at that point, could you then change to unlimited?
No, I
You're
think
just
that was
saying
his
you
question. No.
She said you
Unless
don't
you
have to
can-
buy more hours. She
That's,
said-
okay, that's what I just wanted to clarify.
you buy
I
a bucket of
assumed
more
from the
hours.
first answer, but then she said, oh, you can add more.
Yes, let me
We got
clarify.
5, and all of a sudden we
I-
said, we got a bunch of use, let's go
I-
unlimited.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Do that. But you can buy another 5, another
Gotcha.
2, another.
Yes, so I would say if to manage the time, if you will, if you think about it, that you have, I will always say go conservative. Conservative, smaller window, conservative, if you want some hours, and find out how you're using it. And then after that contract, you say, oh my gosh, Tanya, we've using so much, then I would go into unlimited. It is easier to manage conservatively the smaller number and then adding if you need to, as opposed to waiting in the end of the contract and you realize that we didn't use as many hours as we wanted.
And you did say that you could put a time limit, say, I don't want any students coming on after 11 o'clock or
Yes.
before 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, you can limit the time that you have. So some of our districts, interesting enough, they will have it available during school because they want students to use it if they're in an intervention course or they're in their classes. Some of their teachers will have it available, but then they might turn it off at 11 p.m. And then there's some districts that just have it available 24/7.
And can you vary that by campus or by
You,
level?
you can manage that, and you can actually manage if there's a student that you find that's using so many hours, you can actually limit that student. And we call those super students. So if you have a super student that is on there using it for every single question that someone may ask, you can say, listen, Tommy, we're limiting your time to only 60 minutes a week. You can limit
I
that.
was gonna ask that, cause my son likes to FaceTime anyone and everyone. So I could just see if it's on someone's iPad and they're like, oh, my favorite tutor, shut up, I'm gonna check in about my day, so there's a way to manage that.
And we've had that. We have districts that, and the interesting part about that is that, remember, you can go back and look at the transcripts. So you can actually see what
This
classroom, when they're using it.
Yeah.
Are they in class, using it in class? And you can actually identify classes that they're actually using it in.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
I have another follow-up question, but not for the presenter, for Dr. Blue, I believe.
Anything else? Nope. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I also want to point out Princeton Review is a part of it. So you have that fabulous prep from Princeton Review that's a part of it as well.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Uh-huh.
I will say I've spoken to some of the surrounding, people who work in some of the surrounding districts who are using it, and it comes very, it's very highly regarded. They're having great success with it.
So there's a lot of reports that are available, transcripts of sessions that can be reviewed. Who are you proposing would do that?
Well, we would likely have a district administrator. Ms. Laura Wells is over federal programs, and so she would take that on in terms of managing it, organizing it.
And then she would get the reports and report to the principals, or, so they wouldn't have to?
If we decide to go with this particular program, yeah, we would sit down and just work out a plan for what's going to be communicated, how often it's going to be communicated, what if a parent is asking for a specific session, and we would work out the details of that at that time. I'll tell you, just looking at the list, the one that we also like is the very last one, FEV tutor. The drawback to that one is that FEB tutor doesn't go all the way down to kindergarten. And we've had parents call and say, my first grader cannot read. I need help with my first grader. And so in this particular case, they could have a voice and they could have someone, come in and offer support with that. How much parents would take advantage of it would be left to be determined, but that was what made tutor.com stick out, is that it was all grade levels, and then just having access to the ACT, SAT, TSI prep through Princeton Review. There's a lot of pop-up tutoring companies now. There's one here, they're offering it, and they have 18 tutors, and they're advertising their services all over Texas. And so those kinds of companies didn't appeal to us, particularly because we wanted somebody who's been around a long time, who has experience doing this, and who would give us the opportunity to serve all kids.
So I want to clarify, it looks like on the one column it says PEV tutor is K through 12, but then I see on the last column.
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay,
It's 3 through 12.
Yes, 3 through 12, so that's what you're saying is the.
It's 3 through 12.
Okay, is the drawback there.
And that was the reason, we're looking at these different pieces, and so this one, it's a little bit more expensive per hour, but what was quoted to us is it's $35 per student per hour, or $35 per student unlimited. So what we're looking at is unlimited 7-12, and then buying a bucket for K6. What Eagle Mountain did is they bought the bucket, and they said, I can't remember the exact number, but every student gets 1 hour a week. And, and they did from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., and they started out that way. And then depending on the courses and the use, they made some adjustments there.
Can you say that one more time? Unlimited bucket?
What was quoted?
Yes, what was quoted?
It's $35 per hour, basically. So, 8 minutes here, 7 minutes
Right.
here, 35 an hour, or 35 per student for unlimited. So if it's used widely, and what she said at the end is something that appeals to me, because our teachers, they're working so hard. They're teaching their content, but then they also have all this required intervention. And so you can jump on, and during school, during an intervention class, for example, if they're working on a particular homework assignment or, some kind of problem, they can jump on in class using their Chromebook. So maybe the teacher's doing, let's say, guided reading at the junior high. They're doing a guided reading group here. Then the students over here are working on something else, but they have someone who can answer their questions. So that appealed to me.
I think I heard her say that because they are with the DOD, that active military already has access, so maybe we should be advertising that already?
Yes, if that's accurate, yeah. That wasn't something that yes.
So,
Yes.
Regardless, I'm
Sure.
sure we'll get to that point later, but in the meantime, I think
Yeah.
that would be something really nice to advertise to
Absolutely.
the district for families that do qualify.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Are we doing any other tutoring right now?
Absolutely, yes. Right now, our staff members are providing it before school, after school, during school. We set up master schedules so that the students, have their Tier 1 instruction, their typical courses, and then they also have blocks of intervention time built in and accelerated learning time built in as well. They need more.
I'm not sure how we would do this, but the students that would already have access via Department of Defense.
Don't pay for them?
All those military families.
I was thinking that
Is there
too.
a way to take those pools out so we do not repay for students who already have access?
There should be. I'll talk to them
Okay.
about that before signing anything.
Is there a way to kind of do that?
Yeah.
That was gonna be my question.
And because that's part of it, where it's the districts that are limiting the hours, that the student signs in, so nope, you've reached your 2-hour limit, we're done. So each student would have a login. In that particular case, they might, right, log in through a different portal. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
yes.
You're up, I believe.
On to item 10B.
Hello.
Counseling update from Dr. Devlin, District Improvement Plan, sorry, that's A.
I'm back to share more about our district improvement plan, and then I'll invite our principals down to just give you an overview of our campus improvement plan. So I've done it last year when I brought this to you. There were lots of questions about the overview, and so I prepared it in another format. I hope it's helpful for you. All of you have, it's included in your board book, but you also have a hard copy of the district improvement plan. And so what I've done is I've just provided an overview. Here are the goals, here are performance objectives, and then I bulleted the strategies, because whenever you look at the plan, it's multiple pages, it's lots of words, and so just to kind of help you see. So this is the code that requires the board view and approve our district and campus improvement plans annually. This is part of the board policy as well. So the purpose of a campus and district improvement plan is to essentially look and say, what makes a school good, and how do we measure it? Those are the two things that we're looking at. And I'll add a piece of that, what makes a school good, in order of priority. Because if everything's important, nothing's important. And so with the district improvement plan, one thing that's important to note is this is not every single thing that we're doing, and it's certainly not every single thing that needs to be done. But it is something, these are the priorities that we have in our site-based committees, and our district level committees, that includes parents and community members as well, have identified as priorities. So we start with the comprehensive needs assessment, which we did in the spring. So I'm just gonna review the needs that our site-based teams identified. Demographics, our strengths, diverse student population, we have an experienced staff. In 2021, we had an increased attendance rate, which is great in terms of collecting funds, a decrease in the total number of disciplinary placements over the last 4 years, and an increase in the total number of CCMR graduates over the last 4 years. Teachers have a positive relationship with their campus administration, and they demonstrate pride for their campus. And this data was collected through the surveys that went out in the spring they went out to staff, parents, community members as well. One strength that was identified is that each campus has a process for identifying students in need of intervention. And we have moved to one-to-one Chromebook K-12, so all of our students have access to devices as well. For student achievement, we have a consistent assessment. We've moved to map growth, so we're able to track progress from year to year, and we have a consistent data point for that. And we've increased the number of enrolled pre-kindergarten students so that our earliest learners have a strong educational foundation. Our prioritized needs, so these are the needs that we've identified that our goals and our strategies and performance objectives all target. We need accelerated learning programming and structures to address COVID-19 learning loss, and that's part of tutor.com and why I brought them today. Clarity and consistency in our approach to MTSS, academic and behavioral. So MTSS is a multi-tiered system of supports that includes academics intervention as well as behavioral intervention as well. It's something that has replaced RTI, if you're familiar with that acronym. So we're moving from calling it intervention to accelerated learning. Okay. Strategies for engaging and supporting special populations, including emergent bilingual. these terms I'm throwing out, these all come from the state. So emergent bilingual has replaced the term for English learners this year, and special education, and increased opportunities for family engagement and school community partnerships. Students do better when families are engaged. We know this, and we want to give opportunities for families to come into school and develop the relationships with our staff. So overview, we have our goals, which you've seen, and they were set by the board year and a half ago. And then we have our performance objectives. So our goals are 3 to 5 year goals. Long term, this is what we're moving towards. And then our performance objectives, which are our annual goals. So these are the 3 goals. You're familiar with them. You saw them last year. When you think about our drivers, so what are the things that we really are focusing on to work towards these goals? Capacity building versus accountability. When you think about those things, capacity building is to accountability what finance is to accounting. So finance is how people organize and invest their assets. If you only have accounting, you're merely keeping careful records while you go out of business. In the same way, there's more to accountability than just measuring results. You need to develop people's capacity to achieve the results. So extreme pressure without the capacity building leads to dysfunctional behavior. And so that's, we really are focusing on systems and building capacity as opposed to, the state coming in and they say you have to meet these targets. We want to make sure that we're supporting our staff and developing the skills that they need to work towards them. Cooperative effort versus individualist solutions. So thinking about systems and how things work together, how we can do more when we work together than any superstar can do alone. Pedagogy versus technology. So pedagogy is the driver, technology is the accelerator, right? Technology doesn't replace the teacher, it accelerates the learning that the teacher is able to provide. Tutor.com is an example of that. Systematic processes versus fragmented strategies. So when you go through the plan, what you'll see is there's goal 1, and then there's performance objective 1. And so I'm just gonna go through here. The first performance objective is preparing our students to meet grade level expectations. How are we doing that? We've established and we are constantly refining our curriculum toolbox. We've implemented phonics K-12. We've implemented STEM Scopes math, responsive literacy, MTSS processes and structures, instructional practices for diverse learners, enrichment programs, and annual program evaluations that we began last year, but we're going to hit full force at the end of this year. So it's not just about putting a program in place, but looking at the program at the end of the year and refining it as needed. Students will graduate college and career military ready. We're tracking by student. We have a robust offering and CTE courses, preparation for college readiness exams. This, if we did some kind of tutoring option, that would work towards that as well. 9th grade planning meetings for personal graduation and comprehensive guidance counseling programs.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Do
Sure.
we have this in one of our packets that you had given us? Which one is it? Is it the campus, the district improvement one?
It's the district improvement plan.
District improvement
Yes.
one, okay.
Yes, so the top is the goal, and then the performance objectives, you can go. So if you see here, right under performance objective 3, it tells you the page number. So,
Each plan is laid out the same way.
Okay.
yeah, so this one's on
Page 23.
page 23. So here's the goal here, here's the performance objective here, and then here are the different strategies. I just did bullet points because last year it was so many words and so much information, so I tried to
Perfect, thank you.
reduce it down in a way that was a little bit more palatable. So this is our next goal, engaging students, families, and community. Multiple and appropriate modes of communication. So relational-based trainings for parents, we're offering those through our counseling department. That's already begun. We've started a Wildcat Wire, so we have one that goes out for staff monthly, one that goes out for families and community monthly. You all get one as well. And so we're highlighting different programs within the district, sharing information and resources, just as a way so that parents know, oh, it's in that newsletter we got, so it comes out in a single way. And that's not the only way, but that's one. We've added additional resources for English learners to our website and enhanced programming for early childhood and special populations. Extracurricular and co-curricular, we do a great job in secondary. our focus this year is going to be on offering more opportunities in elementary age clubs, academic competitions, just things. We're going from nothing to something, and then once we have something, then we can make it even better. And so we're looking at rolling that out. Finding staff members who are available, who aren't tutoring, who are available to host those is something that we're seeking currently. This one is families and community members to be able to engage and learn together. So weekend, nighttime workshops for families, so parenting classes, financial literacy classes, things like that. Those are things that just wanting to give our families an opportunity to come in, engage with our staff, and also pick up some things that would help support them. This is our last goal, safe and supportive learning community. This one focuses on encouraging stakeholder input and participation in the educational process. So we have classroom guidance lessons, and then Dr. Devlin will speak more to this later, but French for Life, anonymous bullying reporting. We have all of our standard response protocol, the mandated trainings to make sure that those are happening and the drills are happening regularly, including Stop the Bleed, active shooter, and CPR. And then we have all of our, we call them the compliance bundle, but all the state mandated courses that just make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of the language and what to do when certain things happen. Bloodborne pathogens is kind of a joke because everybody does it every year, and so it's something that we've included as part of our staff training. And then leaders will attract, recruit, and effectively induct the best staff for student success. I know we've spent a lot of time working on ensuring that our salaries are more competitive across the board. That's something that you passed recently. Enhanced recruitment in key areas, and we're working on installing a new teacher induction program across the district that's consistent as well. So part of the work that we're doing is focuses on the capacity building that I mentioned before. So the professional development, how are you developing capacity in the staff? And then how are you leveraging your current resources to make that happen? So I mentioned it earlier today. We have our local funding, we have our title funding that we've used, but we're really focusing on ESSER 2, which is something that's come out since I came up and spoke to you about ESSER 3, that's given us an opportunity to give more support to our students, ESSER 3, and then we've applied and been granted the T-Class grant, which offers an additional resources. So we're excited about rolling those out in the spring. So when we talk about measuring success, you're looking at different things. What is happening and why is it happening? So we're looking at things like MAP growth data, STAR data, common assessment data, but then we're also looking at the experience data. So staff and community surveys, performance assessments, walkthrough data, things that we're collecting as we're walking through the classrooms, talking to teachers, having our site-based committee meetings, to really give a full picture of the experience of students, families, and staff in KISD, because we care about making it better. So in terms of metrics, these are the key areas that we're focusing on. So as you see it, you'll see the goal, you'll see the performance objective and the strategy, and then it says expected outcome right below that, so you'll see what we're looking to measure. And these are aligned with the district scorecard, which I know is in the process of being developed. So we're taking all the different pieces of a puzzle. We're working to be very thoughtful and intentional and thinking about the different systems that we're creating and working together to achieve these grand goals that we've established. And that is what I have for the district improvement plan. So now I would like to invite our campus principals. They've prepared a handout for you that you all should have, as well as a copy of the campus improvement plans. So we'll start with Delaney. And then you all can go ahead and move down here. We'll just save some time. So we'll do Delaney and then Patterson, and we'll go all the way up.
Good evening. So I gave you the full campus improvement plan and the cliff notes on top. And of course, we are utilizing the same goals. And so I'm starting off with just some celebrations and challenges from last year. I think our care team, our RTI, MTSS process to review student needs and progress is a good system. It's one we're continuing to use. The data tracker that we have, we put every type of data assessment. We don't just look at MAP, but we do look at MAP. We look at the curriculum assessments. We'll look at the shorter assessments, and when we have those meetings, teachers also bring in student work. So we try to look at not just one lens, but multiple data to determine where are their strengths, where are they struggling, and what do they need help with. And then student discipline, last year we had less student, and that was the area that we were focusing on, less discipline removal assignments for special education students. The challenges, of course, are one for the teachers and the campuses, just moving over to the online and virtual learning, and then having face-to-face and virtual. That was a huge challenge for students, families, and teachers, and then dealing with the learning gaps due to just the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we did not meet the expected MAP growth progress that we wanted to last year. So looking ahead, our first goal is student achievement. I went ahead and put just a snippet down there of pre-COVID STAR scores in 2019 for 3rd and 4th grade versus last year. And so, as expected, a pretty good dip. I did put, it may seem small, but I did put a 5% increase in meets and masters. I feel like if we're focusing on raising the meets and masters, the approaches is gonna come up. But of course, our target is always meets or higher. And they, they're anticipating a 4-year length of time to try to make up the COVID gaps. So definitely want to do more than that, but that's what I felt like was realistic. And then we want to make adequate progress on our MAP growth as well for all students K through 4. And the strategies we do, first of all, is the Tier 1 instruction, the regular Tier 1 content, making sure that's aligned and engaging for the students and at the rigor that that they're expected to learn it. And we are doing walks and monitoring and walkthroughs to see, are the teachers vertically aligned? It's very important, especially, things are getting better as far as the pandemic, but we have had situations where we have not been able to get subs. We've had to split classes. And it's very important that the teachers stay in sync with their instruction, because they may be in a different class next week or next month. So that was one area we really wanted to focus on the Tier 1 instruction and planning. And then again, we have one time, it's what I need. That's where our 4th graders who were not successful on STAR last year, they get their accelerated instruction, as well as Tier 2 instruction with the teachers, or Tier 3 intervention with the math and reading interventionist, and as well as extension time. I did put down here how many accelerated learning students are in accelerated instruction. We have 73 4th graders are in accelerated instruction. Of these students, 11 of them are new to Delaney this year. They transferred in. 6 are in our bilingual program. 12 receive special education services. 11 receive 504 services. And 10 of the special ed or 504 students are also dyslexic. And we have completed all of our meetings. They have been active in the accelerated instruction, getting their time in, their hours in. And we've already had one progress monitoring, and we're about to have another every 3 weeks. They're progress monitoring how they're doing. I wanted to, on the second page, I wanted you to see just our ethnicity breakdown. It's the trends over the last 4 years. And so our African American population has increased over the last 4 years it's around 20% now. Hispanic has stayed pretty consistent at 28%, so we'll round to 30 for discussion reasons. White has decreased from 47% to 40%. Asian has been pretty consistent, and our two or more races has increased from 4 to 6%. And I want you to see, this is something that kind of just was a red flag to me, or something that kind of blinked as we were doing data last year, and something we want to watch in our data monitoring as well, is the areas where we identify students in subgroups where there is, where it's not as equitable. And why is that? And start asking those questions and start really tracking that so we can see. For example, under special education, when you look at the percentage of our population, Hispanic is at 17%, although they're 30%, about 30% of our campus. With dyslexia, white is 64% identified, but 8% African American and 16% Hispanic. 504, again, Hispanic underrepresented at 15%, and then GT, African American, underrepresented at 6%. So those are just, as we're coming into the data meetings, instead of just looking at, we need to look at individual student progress, but also tracking ethnicity and seeing, are they progressing and why not? Are we, with our Hispanic students, if their home language is Spanish, are we looking at a language barrier too long and not intervening? We know the EL students are struggling as they go up in the grade levels. So just looking at those things and making sure that we are addressing their needs accurately and effectively in a timely manner. And then another strategy is just the professional learning that we've had. We've had lots of professional learning before school and during. I gave you some examples of that. The Reading Academy is ongoing. The teachers are knee-deep in that. Lead Forward, we had before school, and then at our last staff development in October, we had training on that, as well as STEM scopes. We've had PBIS, which is a positive behavior intervention supports systems, and that is, we had a training on that on the campus as well this last time. So we have our matrix of behavior in every area, common area, as well as incentives that we are rolling out to highlight the positive and what we would like to see. We have staff going to CPI training for being able to anticipate, intervene, and de-escalate students when they're displaying challenging behavior. And then our whole staff has been, had the Safe Schools modules that are required. Goal 2, engaging students and families. We try to communicate. I know we can always do better, but we try to communicate in several ways. Very active Facebook, website, Blackboard, Dojo, Marquee, and just trying to put the messages out multiple times. So excited. We just had curriculum night last night and tonight, and it was so good to have those parents in and talk about partnering with them for student education. So I'm really looking forward to, as we're able to move on, if COVID behaves itself and goes away, that we'll be able to start doing more family learning nights face-to-face. We did have Meet the Teacher Night as well this year, and hoping, like we said, hoping to continue to be able to have interact with our parents and our community. We are having a trunk or treat event with Patterson that we're partnering with this Saturday. It's an outside event, so we're very excited about that. And our PTO has been very active this year, just really trying to drum up support for the students, for the staff. They're partnering. It's the PTOs that are partnering Patterson and Delaney in this activity. And then in the spring, we're going to have an activity at Patterson that's a combined effort. So I really appreciate those teams getting together. Then our site-based committee, we have a site-based committee. I would like more parents, which I've solicited, put out another survey. We have a couple of parents that are on and active on that, but we want to solicit more. So we are working to do that, and I gave it a plug at our meetings the last 2 nights as well. Safe and supportive school. We will collaborate with families and communities in the program. Our counselor is being very proactive. She's going to the classrooms with her guidance lessons. She is seeing students individually and in groups. She's also, she is actually new this year, Miss Renfro, but she's already partnering with our communities that we've partnered with. We received, I think, 30 coats from Rush Creek today for students that need those. We get the food bags for the weekend with them as well. The Rotary Club provided earphones, or not earphones, but earbuds for students. So if they were in need, that they have those. So we really do have great partnerships and a great community in Kennedale, and very much appreciate it. Our parents as well, they've been donating the candy and so that the teachers don't have to purchase the candy for the trunk or treat. And they've really come through. Snacks for the children in the classroom. They do have a snack time, so we have parents that do that, and try to help also maybe families that aren't able to do that. We are having a community service event where we're going to provide goods to the mission here, and we're having that, I believe it's on November 3rd. And our counselor has developing an ambassador leadership group, and they're going to also assist us in those cans. It's going to be a drive-through. Prior to the pandemic, we always brought the cans to the school, but last year we actually took it there, and the parents drove through, and we took them, and it went really well, and so we're going to do that again this year. So those are just a couple ideas or a couple of things that we're doing to try to continue to have events in the midst of the pandemic, and hopefully we'll be able to do more traditional nights soon. And then on the last page, I just gave you some of the trainings that we've had this year and that are continuing on. Do you have any questions? Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. First, I wanted to thank Mr. G, Dr. Vu, my first principal night. So thank y'all, board members, for taking me on as a challenge or a growth opportunity. I'm very humbled by the opportunity to be here, and I hope not to let y'all down. So Patterson, we are rocking and rolling. And there's a lot of joy. So that is one of the strengths I want to highlight to begin with, is that has nothing to do with any new leadership that's come in. It's been there. And so that was something that was noted during the surveys that were done in the spring, and relayed to me through Mrs. Jones on her departure. But one of the big things is that parents, students, and faculty members acknowledge that the best part of Patterson is the teachers and their dedication to the students, their craft, and making sure that their needs are met. I gave you a Reader's Digest version, so if you want to go through that, you're more than welcome to go through the big old words. If you want the Reader's Digest handout I passed out. The other thing that was a celebration from last year was that scheduled PLCs occurred throughout the day, and that was implemented for the first time last year on Patterson. And so it was a new thing for them to get used to, having a weekly meeting that was solely devoted to coming together as a professional learning community and working together to come up with ideas, dig through data, and find out what would be the best targeted strategies for our students. Some of the challenges, the deltas that we would want to change is what we always say. It's going to be COVID. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. And so the students have come to us with gaps. What do we do with that besides continue to use it as an excuse? And so one thing that they noticed from that was the Tier 1 instruction, which is what everyone receives. Every student has the right to receive Tier 1 instruction, solid, rigorous, engaging Tier 1 instruction. And so that was one of the areas in which they realized that they would like to focus on this year, and has become something that they've taken ownership of as well. When I go down to the strategies that align with the goals for the district, they're a little bit similar to other campuses, but we've tweaked it, and I hope that our take on it will provide the results that I'm aiming for and that the team is. It's not just me. I can't do it alone. The first one is that we want to make sure that all of our students show 1 year's worth of growth in reading and math. We did not have the ability to provide you with great glowing map results from beginning of year to end of the year for last year. And so it is our goal, no matter where the students started this year, that they show 1 year's worth of growth. And we are monitoring that through progress. We're monitoring every 3 weeks when they bring it into the PLC in order to make sure that we hit all the TEKs that are grade level. And then during our Tier 2 intervention and during small group time, we are able to fill in the gaps. And then with the accelerated instruction, our students are able to pick up the pieces or fill in the gaps without even realizing it. So they're still getting the rigor of their students and the rigor that the TEKs are written, and then we fill in the gaps along the way. By doing that, we have to go through ongoing training. Ongoing training through the district has provided incredible training, and our curriculum could not be any more clearly outlined or easily accessible to our staff. They can go to it right away. They've had great PD on that, and so I applaud the district for making sure that they gave the power to the teachers to take ownership of it instead of saying, I don't know what to do. And so that took some time during our back to school PD, but it was a very beneficial training, and so I'm grateful for that because I was able to learn alongside with them, but they got to do it. And so it wasn't just a PD where they just watched it. So that opportunity enlightened them. And the other part that we need to do is we need to engage our students. We can sit here and talk all night long, but if I can't engage you, if I can't make you want to be involved in this, you're not going to take ownership of your learning. Students learn the effect size is so much greater when a student is actively engaged in their experiences. For me, this might not be a great thing for y'all to hear. I'm not a big fan of worksheets. I want them to hands-on. I want real life. I want them doing it. I want them to manipulate it. I want them to synthesize it. I want them to it to become ingrained in them so that they can talk to you about it, so that they can write about it, so that they actually feel that they know and have a great concept of those basic building blocks. And one way to only do that is I've got to make sure it's being implemented with fidelity. And so I failed to mention this. I have an AP. Yay! She's not here tonight. Her name is Mrs. Aplon. She has previously been an AP in Midland and has extensive experience at the Region 18 Service Center. And so she is going to be a great resource, and she's very instructionally sound. And so I'm excited to be able to get in the classrooms now. So how do we make sure that they're engaged? How do we make sure that everyone is receiving quality Tier 1 instruction? We have to make sure that we're going through and doing the walks. And it's not an I got you. It's, hey, everybody has a right. It's my job to make sure that every student gets that opportunity, and no matter where they go. So that horizontally, in every second grade class, they are receiving high quality, rigorous instruction. And so you gotta be there. If I know my bosses are coming to check up, I'm gonna make sure that I've got everything in tip-top shape. And then it becomes a natural thing. It's just a habit that we have to create. For goal 2, it is that we want to increase opportunities for school and community events. I came in like a wrecking ball. So I have a little bit of trepidation to open back up and have all the events on campus. We're getting there. But it came in strong and wanted the community all in. And yeah, that wasn't a bright idea, so I learned. We have now monthly opportunities for our families to be engaged. I had a great opportunity to read one of Mrs. Clark's newsletters and Blackboard messages that she sent out asking for all-stars. Is that right? And so in education, we beg, borrow, steal. And so I texted her, I was like, hey, may I steal that idea? Because I would love for my students to be able to have an opportunity to have good male role models that they get to see on campus, interacting in their day, being a positive influence. And, they're missing that. That's just, it is what it is. They're missing it. So it's my responsibility to provide a way. So I've contacted community organizations. We're up to 11 volunteers so far. So hopefully the next PTO meeting that we have, we'll be able to rope them in and be able to get those strong influences on campus for our young men, but also for my girls. I want them to see what good men look like, sound like, and how they treat everyone around them. Another opportunity that we've had is we have for our PTO meetings, we have our students perform. Anytime your kid performs, you know you're going to show up. So that at least gets a whole grade level worth of parents involved in that opportunity. Our social worker, we were brainstorming, and I said, sometimes I just feel like they just need some little nuggets of wisdom. So we are providing bite-sized parent PD. It might be community resources that they aren't aware of, or just, hey, I just want to let you know, if you ever find yourself in this situation, here's where you can go. And then they can go with a little bookmark home. Sometimes it's parenting. It's, hey, you want them to learn one-to-one correspondence? Play a board game with them. Best way to do it. So just little things like that, and giving them an opportunity to have a takeaway to go with it, and not that they are feeling like they are being told you're not doing something right. It's everybody's getting it. So just that monthly opportunity, bite-sized nuggets, and hopefully open that door for them to reach out to her in the future. And let's see, we have lots of things planned each month. So my goal is to provide an equal opportunity for working parents, for parents who work overnight. So if we have an activity in the morning, we also will have one the next month. It will be a similar activity, but it will be provided on the evening or on the weekend, so that all parents have the opportunity to come and be a part of their student's life. And most of them are community-based or service-oriented, whether writing letters, putting together, I call them blessing bags for homeless, take it to the homeless shelter and drop off, but giving them an opportunity to be a part of the one donating this service, and also knowing that sometimes we donate, sometimes we receive, and we're blessed either way. And then our last one that goes along with our goal 3 is we wanted to make sure that we could reduce discipline referrals and bullying reports. How do we do that? First thing that we have to do is that we have to give them an opportunity to have those social emotional learning and that they might have missed, whether we blame it on the last 18 months of the COVID, or if it's just because they didn't have a solid pre-K kinder experience, they weren't in Kennedale to get these opportunities for the lessons. We start each morning in K1 and 2 with a morning circle. It's rooted in kind of a check-in, and it's creates that sense of community and family. And it also gives the teacher an idea to say, hey, I know where my kids are. It's super quick. It might be one question, but it also gives everybody a turn to have a voice. So everybody goes around, it might be a quick question, what's your favorite food? They go through it, and they learn that, I gotta wait my turn to do that. So that has been beneficial in our younger kids, because they're learning patience, they're learning how to be good listeners, and they're learning how to speak in front of people. Sometimes when you might be shy, you might skip it, but then we always go back to you. And then in 3rd and 4th grade, we have a Friday focus. So we've utilized the curriculum and the resources that Dr. Devlin has graciously and beautifully put together for us, so that we have grade level that are appropriate, that the teachers don't have to do any extra work. They can go and pull the Friday focus, and sometimes it might be a skill that they are seeing as deficient in their classroom, and other times it ties in with the core, the KISD 7 core characteristics that we are focusing on that month. And the other way that we do that is that we have not just the counselors have the responsibility, but really placing it on the teachers. Intentional teaching of these skills, it can't hurt. And when we take the time to do it, we build better human beings that are better able to, equipped to handle the failures that they might see or that they might be experiencing during these learning gaps that they have. And then the other thing that we've done is on each campus we do have a behavior matrix. So we're Patterson proud, so ours is proud, and it goes along with the areas of high frequency issues: bathrooms, hallways, cafeteria. And so those are the areas in which we focus. And each week there is a different highlight, and every day before they go into the cafeteria, they go over the matrix, and then they hear it in the cafeteria. And then, we fail sometimes to do it, and when the, teachers start to realize that we're having issues, All right, we got to go back and reteach that again. Again, it's explicit teaching or implicit teaching. You're just doing it, and you're doing it because you know you have to do it in order to teach those behaviors. We can't expect that they come to us with that. Let's see, one of our professional developments that goes along with it that we are continuing, the district provided lead forward training, which is engagement strategies. And I found it to be one of my favorite trainings so far. I came away with a lot of ideas, and I feel like I'm a pretty engaging person, but these were new and outside of the box. And so in order to not just have that training and then have it sit stale, we have at each PLC, one person on the team that is involved in the PLC brings an engagement strategy that they're currently using in their classroom and explains it, models it, and we highlight it, and then we try and catch them doing that throughout the week. Or until we have the next PLC. It gives the ownership to the teachers so that it's not just me being a talking head, but they're the ones in the classroom. And they'll say, hey, this really worked. You'll be surprised. And so that's been nice to see how they've been able to implement those engagement strategies and take that professional development and continue to implement it in their teaching. And then we are going to have PBIS training. And our PBIS team will actually lead that training in November for professional development, and we are going to be creative in ways in which we positively reinforce behaviors and how we can focus and put more of an emphasis on that positive. And yes, there are consequences for actions, good or bad, but making sure that we catch them doing what's right and they get to know what that feels like. The other thing that we're going to do is another engagement strategy to kick the year off. So when we come back in January, we've slept. And so to get re-energized and ready to go, we have an engagement strategies PD that we have in the works, and that will be facilitated by teachers and administrators, and we're excited about it. So that's what I have for you today. Thanks.
Thank you.
I reworked our campus improvement plan, so I just want to make sure everyone, we printed the one that was in there today and gave all of us. Is it
Mr. President, can we take a 2-minute break?
I was like, did I
I
make
just
any
run out.
changes today? I don't think so.
Yes.
We're gonna take a 2-minute break for a restroom stop. So.
Yeah.
Sorry. Get up going. We are back from our short break, and we'll go back to the presentation.
All right. All right, some highlights from Arthur. Our 5th graders led the district in closing academic gaps on the STAR assessment last spring. Also, we have certain targets that we are looking to meet for the different subgroups. And this year, our students receiving special ed services met their targeted goal, so I was very excited to see that. We are doing lots of very specific, individualized intervention in the classroom during the school day. And so these are some things that I'd like to celebrate. We also have scheduled PLC time during the school day. This has been very beneficial for the teachers to have the time to look at data and talk about students and talk about lesson plans, and where they, in years past, maybe they have to meet together after school or before school. Now they can do it during the school day. Some things that are holding us back a little bit is the absence of direct daily instruction last year due to COVID-19. We are seeing some gaps in our students. And last year's campus improvement plan was based a lot on the accountability of 2018-19. And talking about those targets for each subgroup again, we did not meet our target for our white population or economically disadvantaged. I also have Asian on here, but our Asian population has decreased. And so in our campus plan last year, we had specific objectives to address that. This year, I changed it up a little bit in the new plan, where I want to focus on increasing the meets and masters level of our STAR results for all subgroups in reading and math. And so, goal 1 is down to two objectives, where last year, and the plan you got earlier had 3 objectives, but I condensed it and now we're down to 2. The strategies that I have listed on this are all new. So this year, when I looked at the progress we made on our goals last year, it did not look too good. I really wanted our meets and masters percentages to go up. And when I sat down and broke it all down, we didn't. And so I thought, you know what, we're just gonna roll this over. We're gonna try some new things and continue doing the things we know that work, but then also add some new things. And so that's what is on my handout. Some of those new things the district provided training from Lead Forward on instructional strategies, and this is all to promote student engagement. I've seen a lot of these strategies being used in the classroom, and so it's just new, fresh, maybe even reminders or ideas to use learning activities that are going to engage the students, that they are going to want to be a part of. Each student also has an individualized intervention worksheet. And then strategy number 9 is talking about our accelerated instruction for students who were not successful on the previous year's STAR assessment. I'm going to kind of talk about 8 and 9 together, because during the school day for reading, math, and science, each class has win time. And during that win time, some students are working on intervention with their specific intervention plan. Some students are working on accelerated instruction because they did not pass the STAR last year, and we're working on grade level objectives to help improve that this year. Some kids have both, and so we really have to be strategic about which days and minutes we let them do that, because for accelerated instruction, they have to have 30 minutes for the year. No, 30 hours for the year. Got it. Yes?
Explain what win time is, because I think we're using win time across the board, but I don't think anybody can explain what win
Sure.
time is.
Each block is 90 minutes long, and so you'll have a language arts block. 60 minutes of that is for instruction of new material. And then 30 minutes of that block is set aside for teachers to provide intervention or the accelerated instruction. So a lot of this helping students get caught up is done during that time. We have looked at lots of data to determine which objective students are weak in, specific to the student, and they know that because they have that on their student data tracker. And so during win time, they know what they need to work on for intervention, and then they have some choices on how they want to do that. Sometimes it'll be their turn to work with a teacher in a small group at the teacher table. They may use Education Galaxy. They may use another teacher-created activity in a small group. And so that's all to build up skills they're weak in from the last few years. The accelerated instruction is all grade level material, so it's keeping them up with what we're doing this school year. But we have that time set aside for language arts, math, and science, and so there's 30 minutes in each subject for them to spend that time on intervention and accelerated instruction.
Small groups are also part of that?
Yes.
Small group instruction?
Yes. Small group instruction. Sometimes it's with the teacher, sometimes the teacher creates different activities for them to work with other students who have the same weakness, academic weakness, so they can work on it together. Each teacher has the freedom to kind of do and set it up the way they prefer. So it looks different, but I guess the goal of it is all the same. All right, so some of the new things that we are implementing is definitely the win time, the student data binders, and then which we are really continuing, but to add to that, each student is getting a student scorecard next week. And that is where they're keeping up with their report card grades, their map data, an interim test that we'll be giving. And so I want them to be able to see each 9 weeks how they're progressing and where they're at academically. I don't, like this last 9 weeks, I'm not sure every student even saw their report card. And so I want them to really be aware of, this is where I'm at, these are my grades, this is the progress I'm making. And so we have implemented that this year. And then our math and reading interventionists are providing the instructional support inside and outside of the classroom. They do an incredible job of helping teachers with ideas and helping them understand student needs, and then providing that support maybe with activities or lessons or just ideas. Usually when I walk down the 500 hall where the interventionist classrooms are, I can peek my head in and it seems like they're always in a teacher's classroom talking about strategy, intervention to help the students. And again, we scheduled our master schedule this year for teachers to have time to meet in their PLCs. And then our regular strategies, the things that we continue to use, are in the campus improvement plan. All right, for goal number 2, we are carrying over our food bags that we send home with students every Friday, our family events. One thing we're going to do in November is have a curriculum scavenger hunt. Parents really want information on Parent Portal, Education Galaxy, Google Classroom, data binders. We have 9 different topics, and so they will get a sheet with QR codes, and they have to answer a little clue and find the different areas so they can learn about those 9 different topics. To add to goal 2, one of the strategies, or actually objectives that we're adding, is the Arthur's All-Stars Dads Club. This is something that a dad brought up in a site-based meeting. And so I said, of course, we'll have a dad's club. So thank you for the suggestion. And so we are trying to get that up and running. This will be dads greeting us, at the front door, maybe having lunch with us, being on the playground with us, being there at dismissal. Really, it's really based on their schedule, but just being on campus and being visible. And then for goal number 3, we're continuing with our house system. We're continuing with Genius Hour. That starts tomorrow. I'm so excited. We still have our school-wide PBIS. We just brought back our kindness pause, which are, I think, really helping us. Every time a student is caught being kind, a teacher or a student can write what they saw on a paw, and then those are announced every morning. So this morning I probably read 18, 20 of them. So just hearing all that kindness and reaching out and helping others, I'm hoping is going to encourage us to be kind, be more kind to one another. We're really focusing on our guidance programs that the counselor is providing. Our counselor's talking with the teachers and trying to find out what the specific needs are. She works closely also with our social worker that comes weekly. And so we are focusing in on those programs to help support teachers, and which then in turn supports the students. And then moving forward with our professional development, we've all had Lead Forward training, which I felt was very beneficial to the teachers. Our language arts teachers had responsive literacy training a couple weeks ago, which they really enjoyed and got a lot out of. We will be having a campus-wide PBIS training, just a refresher to kind of see where the teachers are at with it and if there's any needs or anything they want to bring up about that. We will also have a school-wide education galaxy training, just to make sure teachers understand the program, give them time to make sure they have their classes in the program, and just learn some new tricks maybe that they didn't know before about Education Galaxy. So we will spend some time doing that. Do you have any questions? Hmm? Oh, at the end, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. All right, so I'll start off with the celebrations of what's going well at Kennedale Junior High. Our PLCs are going extremely well. When I first got hired on, PLC was just a time on our master schedule, and the teachers would meet up and talk about things. So, okay, baby steps. The second year, we had that same time allocated, and we had more planning going on. So how are we going to provide good Tier 1 instruction to our students? This year, again, baby steps. You have your planning piece, but we're also doing our data digs and talking about, so this is the instruction that we gave the student. Take a look at the assessments. Why did they choose answer A over B? And you had 30% that chose that. So you're looking at not just the instructional piece, but the actual results and what we can do with that. So we're pushing on ahead and making strides. So PLCs are going really well. Parent support and PTO are outstanding this year. Ms. Villagomez and Mr. Alton are driving that for the PTO, so thank you so much. Again, I'm excited about our activity on the 29th for our, not Oktoberfest, but our fall festival. So you guys are invited if you want to come to that. We even had a parent who bought our entire staff Mama's Pizza. Like, that was expensive. And her reason was, you're dealing with my daughter, and I know she's a lot of work. So I was like, yes, you are right. And so that's going really well, our parent support, and again, I appreciate all the work they're doing. We have a class called ROAR, which stands for Realizing Organization, Academic, and Rewards. And if you know anything about, like, it's AVID, like the Kirkland brand of AVID. It's not the full thing. So with AVID, you're preparing students for college, and so there's different strategies and things that we implement. When you have your binders, you do your binder checks, you have your just things that are getting you ready for college. And so that's what our war class does. They went to Tarleton State last week, and the kids were, they're just amazed. And what I appreciated was that it demystified what college is like. So, because the kids never stepped foot on a college campus before, and they're like, oh, it's just regular people. Then they got to eat in the cafeteria, and like that was the thing for them. So they go to UNT the second week of November, so they're really excited about that. So our ROAR class is going really well. And then our writing during win time, and I know, Mr. G, you asked about win time, and win means what I need. I don't know if that was clarified, but during their win time, on Wednesdays, we do writing, and we give them the STEM question and have the students just write. It's helping us a lot academically, so that's going really well. Some of our challenges, big one is student behavior. You have kids who haven't been in school for 18 months, and so coming back and interacting with other kids and seeing their friends, and it's a lot for some of them. So it can be overstimulating for some, but we're getting that under control, and we're having meetings about that, and with our PBIS interventions and things like that, I think we'll get it together. We'll get it under control. We do have a few new teachers that are struggling, and we're working with them, and their struggles are just, how do I teach? So when we hired them, I said, I just need you to be able to care about kids. I'll show you how to teach. So we're going to get them there with the teaching piece, and with PLCs, which they meet twice a week for PLCs. We'll get them where they need to be. So getting their strategies, and one of the big strategies I'll talk a little bit more is the Fundamental 5. And another one of our challenges is that our STAR scores and BOI scores are not where we want them to be yet. Big yet. So we're working on that. So looking ahead with goal 1 for student achievement, one of the big things that we are focused on is monitoring the instruction and strategies that our teachers are using to ensure that they are using the approved curriculum. One of the things that we are constantly talking about is, okay, so you're struggling with the curriculum, like why? What is it you're not using, or what is it you're not getting? For math, we have our Carnegie Learning, STEM Scopes for Science, Springboard for ELA, and then for history, we have McGraw-Hill Connect Ed. So we have the curriculum. Let's make sure we're using it with fidelity, and that's what we're doing. So we'll have those conversations, and then whenever we do our walkthrough, we make sure we provide feedback with our teachers. So what do you think would have happened if you would have asked this question, or how do you think the class would have reacted if you would have done it this way instead? So those are conversations that we have as well. All right, and then our campus administrators will also have weekly team meetings to discuss student progress, and this is where we take a look at our RTI, our MTSS, and have those conversations with our team teachers. So we have 2 7th grade teams, 2 8th grade teams, and we meet every Monday. I'm the lead on those meetings. We also meet with our SPED teachers, and we also meet with all of our electives. So Monday's pretty much shut down. We're meeting. It's a double-edged sword. One, I want to make sure that we're communicating every week. So we have faculty meetings once a month, but I don't want the information to wait once a month. So every week, anything that's updated, if Dr. Vu sends something out or Mr. G sends something out, I want to make sure that the teachers are getting that information at least by that Monday. We take a look at our kids, which kids are struggling, what do we need to do to address those struggles. So we make sure that we're doing that every Monday. And then of course for PLC, they meet twice a week to talk about best practices and discuss the data as well. All right, so looking at goal 2 for engaged students, families, and community. One of the big things we want to make sure that we are increasing our communication efforts with our students and families by 20%. And I send out a monthly newsletter, and the team sent out a monthly newsletter. So I send mine out the first week of the month, and then the team send theirs out the second or third week. Kind of depends on what it falls on. So at least twice a month, the parents should be hearing from the teachers. That's our goal, because parents, especially coming out of, well, we're not really out of a pandemic, but parents really want to know what's going on with their kids and what's going on in the school. So we want to make sure that we're letting them know everything that's happening. So we want to increase our communication. I haven't been able to for the last 2 months, but we're going to go back to our pulse meetings. This is something that I did last year that was kind of like coffee with the principal. We had a subject that we wanted to discuss, and go online, have that conversation. So now that we can do it in person, I would like to get back to having that. I want parents in the building, hear some ideas, share some good times, answer any questions, answer any concerns, or address any concerns that they may have. So I'm going to go back to our pulse meetings. We will also have 2 academic nights to help with our family partnership. This is kind of stealing from the elementary schools, where they have some great curriculum nights. And I've seen it on our campuses, in Kennedale. I've seen it at my wife's campus. it's really powerful. They've got some good things, so we want to make sure that we have those as well. All right. And looking at goal 3 with safe and supportive learning environment. During our win time every Friday, the students log into what we call the Zen Den, and that is where our counselor has our social emotional lessons in the Zen Den. So kids get on their Chromebook during win time, and it's based on the second step curriculum. And that's the expectation. Every Friday, you guys know to log in. It's great activities that the kids do, great, and it starts great conversations as well. So 100% of our kids participate in that program. So I'm excited about that. We also have a CIS social worker, and when we meet on Mondays with the teams, any of our students who are struggling that might be outside the realm of school, we make sure that we refer them to our CIS social worker. So, and she's phenomenal. She does a great job. And another big thing, we want to focus on decreasing our SPED disciplinary removals by 25%. Remember why I said that discipline is a concern. Focusing on some of the de-escalation skills for our teachers and knowing how to address how do you talk to students, especially if a student is either in crisis or is just having a real difficult time adjusting. There's techniques that you can follow that are pretty standard that can help you address that and talk to that student. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. And we're also, as administrators, being creative with our discipline. You don't have to do the same thing for every single student. So, and I think that our teachers and our students appreciate the individualized discipline. It just works better because ISS might work for this one kid, but lunch detention might work better. So, because they don't get to socialize with their friends. So we also do that as well. And then I talked about we have our monthly character education program where we focus on the 6 pillars of character, and we pick 2 students from each team that are displaying those characteristics and take their picture and they get recognized. And the last page, we have our professional development. So we've done our lead forward, we've done our fundamental 5. In our next month, one of the things we're going to be discussing are the 4 goals of misbehavior. And Ms. Douglas, you'll probably appreciate it because I work with ad-liring and techniques, so focus on that. So 4 goals of misbehavior, and this is just getting our teachers, again, addressing some of the misbehaviors in their classrooms. Hey, let's talk about why they might be doing those, showing these behaviors. We'll have our Egg Galaxy refresher as well, and then our MAP student goal setting refresher. So we've gotten our BOY. The teachers are talking to the students about their goals, but I want to show what we can do with, okay, so we know what they want to do and how do we get them to meet those goals. And then we have our PBIS strategies. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. First of all, you guys have, yeah, it's a one-pager, Mr. G. I know that everybody, copier broke or something. I'm not sure. The other thing is,
It's a trick.
I want to explain something to you. You guys have a really thick one from the high school. It's a little bit deceiving. That's actually not the one I want you to look at. When you in Plan for Learning, we can upload things, and I uploaded our campus needs assessment presentation from the summer. That's in there, and so it's slide by slide. So it adds an extra 100 pages because even that was long. Actually, what we did, you've got the new and reduced version. Actually, I went back. I'm very lucky this year. I had a lot of parents who came to one of my meetings recently, and I had extra eyes and Dr. Vu and some teachers. And we actually have a shortened. We've reduced and compacted some things of our campus improvement plan, and so there it is. And so I want to remind us about the process here. We went last year, at the end of the year, we do a campus needs assessment. We look at all different areas of our campus. We do a presentation. You can see that presentation in that bigger version. And then part of the campus improvement plan tonight, I want to remind everybody the purpose of that for our campus and for our district is so that we can do a couple things. We can, number one, set our priorities. We can, number two, explicitly state the strategies that we're going to use to tackle the challenges that we have, and we can identify our goals and objectives and all of those things. And so I want to, when you're looking at the high school and the board looks at that, and you may have a question for me, I challenge my campus leaders. I told them, don't not only just look at what's in it, think about what's not in it. And I say that we got to think about what do we explicitly need to say as an organization that we're doing to be successful. For instance, we make explicit choices. There are things that we have done. This is my 5th year at the high school. There are explicit choices that we've made as an organization that we have to define as where we want to go for an organization. For instance, we have a lot of good things going on at Kennedale High School. We have an amazing band program, by the way, that did well at Springtown last week, and they continue that tradition of straight ones. How did we get there? Why do we have such a great fine arts program in Kennedale High School? Why is the football team good every year? Why is the volleyball team good almost every year? Why do we have an archery program this year that has possibly 75 plus kids and the possibility to field 3 teams in tournament competition, not just 2? Because we as an organization make choices, and a lot of times I bring all this, it's defined in these plans. For instance, we have a simple statement in there that as a Google campus, we will use Chromebooks one-to-one on our campus in curriculum and to support our curriculum instruction. Those things are explicit and they define us. We could have been an iPad campus. So think about not only just the things we say, but what we didn't say that we're going to do when you look at that plan. Over the years, it's helped us, I say, with the campus improvement planning process and looking at our needs. We've done a lot of things. We've turned a lot up at the top. A lot of our weaknesses are now strengths. We used to have bad Wi-Fi and poor technology in our schools and limited skills among our staff. Those are now defined as campus strengths on our campus needs assessment. We have gone to, from our high school, for instance, we have made some decisions where we were struggling in our advanced science courses. We were having students, we just had a couple of offerings in AP and in our STEM courses. We didn't have any options in dual credit. We were struggling to get kids to score at 3 or higher. Well, now we've formed new partnerships. We've brought in new programs. We actually offer 3 dual credit classes in STEM this year that we've never had before, and we have, we're going to have lots of kids coming out of those classes and earning their CCMR points, and which is helping us solve another issue that we have right now, and that's the CCMR readiness of our kids, or that part of the accountability. So I just want to let you know that this process is important and these plans are important, and all of the things that we do in the process are important. They've helped us bring the culinary program to Kennedale High School, forge that new relationship with TCC that brought our dual credit expansion with them in welding and automotive, which did not get kicked off this year, which is going to be put off another year. But I remind you this with all of the things here, and I know you've had a long night up here. We did a campus needs assessment. We started this year, and I said that we came in, and I had to remind myself in our meeting the other day, I said last year's problems aren't this year's. We did a lot of analysis in the spring, and I got here, and we've got a lot of things right now. I put 2 of the biggest challenges on paper, but I want to remind the board, I did a top 10 list of challenges that I don't even think in August we all saw coming. And so I'll just read a list of you if you know some things that we're going through. We're seeing we're having a very difficult time hiring hourly employees. We've had staff shortages. We've got sub shortages, bus driver shortages. I don't know. Every school district is facing this. That's that and some other factors. We've got high levels of teacher and employee stress just because a lot of us are being asked to do things. We sent kids, a lot of them virtually for 15 months, and they got to have a lot of freedoms. Now they've come back into a place where they've got a lot of routines and a lot of expectations, and that's been a big adjustment. We've got discipline issues that we've not had before, and we're going to work through those things. and it's going to take time for our staff and for our kids. We have much bigger than anticipated learning gaps. The good thing about Kennedale High School is we've done a lot of beginning of the year assessment to make sure that we can monitor and see what those gaps are. One of the things I want to point out, and that's number 4 on my top 10 list, by the way, the one thing that I want to tell you that Kennedale High School more than anything is doing, and that you need to know, is I think we're working on our identification and response systems. We are, as a leadership team and as a district, we are using data a lot more to our advantage to identify problems. And for instance, I know that we got some from the district office help us identify, when I talk about discipline, getting some students and identifying what are some of their common disciplines, giving those to the principals, and that information comes to us, and now we're able to go respond and move quicker. This is what we're seeing this year. This year, House Bill 4545 has also forced us to do a lot of things that we didn't always want to, but I said we've got learning gaps. I'm actually a little bit thankful now for House Bill 4545. It's requiring me to meet with the 140 freshman parents and students in committee meetings to develop an accelerated learning plan to fill those learning gaps that they had. We've already had 108 out of the 140, and so I would have never had that opportunity, and there's a silver lining in those things. But we've got a lot of things. I said, I've got a new admin team. 3 out of the 5 administrators on our campus are new. We've had right in the middle of the beginning of this year, we had a large COVID surge, which has created problems. I go through the rest of the list. We've returned to in-person large-scale events after being separated. It's brought people stress even going to football games. We are still looking at what's called our leaver list, which is higher than we've seen, meaning there are leavers out there, and I'm looking at a particular type of leaver, so don't let me misspeak. We are looking still a lot of districts for kids who have never shown back up to school. We don't have any data on where they are. That's not foreign to Kennedale ISD. That happens every year. We have kids that we got to track down. Did they transfer? Did they move? What happened? And so that list is longer. We've been looking for that to try to get them back into school. And some kids were waiting on the sidelines for homeschool, and homeschool was full. K through 12 was full, and so we actually pulled in, for instance, this week we pulled another kid back to our Success Center to get her graduated. But it's taking a lot of things, us using data, us having better systems, us having better communications to make sure we get back to normal, because normal was not easy. We didn't foresee TikTok trends. We didn't foresee the sub shortage. We didn't foresee political issues and the hot buttons that everyone has, and some of the battles that have spilled not only from the political arena but to social media that have affected us. But I say that, though, of all the things we're dealing with, we still have to move forward. What do we need to do better at Kennedale High School? We must increase the number of students who are CCMR ready. And particularly under that, we are really doing a good job with the career. We're actually doing a pretty good job with military. What we are struggling in with some of our scoring is college ready, and we are working on that. I said we're developing better systems. We have tracking systems for every student at the high school right now. We can tell you if they've earned their CCMR point, meaning they've met or college readiness standard. If they have not, we are adapting and providing opportunities for them to gain those. We've also implemented and brought in new systems like on-ramps, and we've also brought in some college prep classes and partnered with an online system called the Texas Bridge that are giving our students the chance to get that college readiness in different ways since they were having trouble meeting them others. So we're trying to be more responsive using the data we have. That's the biggest change at Kennedale High School. But again, when you read our plan and all of those things, think about what you're saying and what we're not saying. What do we explicitly want to do? We've had to make a lot of decisions with our programs. I compare that to this board had to make a decision with our artificial turf and track. And so I look back to our guiding documents like our campus improvement plan, and we think about what we want to be good at and what we want to do well. And I hope we've outlined that in this plan. So I guess, are we at the end? Any questions, or how do you want to do that?
So I hope you've enjoyed hearing from the principals, because this is where the great work happens. I think you've seen tonight that it's been a challenging year for reasons that we anticipated and reasons that we didn't necessarily anticipate. But these principals have done such an amazing job pushing forward, motivating their staff, doing things that they don't have to do, but it's in the best interest of kids, and so they're doing it anyway. They didn't mention the hundreds of accelerated instruction conferences. Like, Mr. Cagle is not the only principal who's leading these conferences. They're meeting with children who were not successful in the STAR test last year. They're developing an individualized plan with the parents, with the teachers, all together. They're putting it in our online system so that it can be tracked over time. It's amazing. It's never happened before, and it wouldn't happen without this group of people. And so they deserve so much appreciation. So it's very fitting that it's Principals Month.
I'm gonna chirp in now. So it's been a challenging year. We recognized them earlier, but I really want to applaud their efforts, because I don't think y'all realize how much we have thrown at them in the midst of the COVID and everything else that's going on, and the initiatives that we've been pushing through, and the trainings that and how many presentations that they've had to sit there and prepare for. I feel like a proud papa right now, because the reality is that I'm hearing stuff. I've challenged, instructional leaders. How many times have you heard me say, you need to be the instructional leaders on your campuses, over and over and over again? And what I'm hearing tonight, and I already said this to Mr. Clark earlier, I know some of you haven't been on the board long enough. I know Mr. Bisco. I'm hearing the alignment that we've been talking about. I'm hearing the focus of where we're going. All of that is coming clearer. They're talking about the systems that are in place that they weren't talking about before. And kudos to all of you, because it shows up. And great job. So.
Yeah, they're amazing. Questions?
Okay, well, I'll go first.
Okay.
So first, I would like to say thank you, because I know putting a CIP together is not an easy task, and it does not happen overnight. So I'm going to have a statement before I have a question. Ms. Pride, thank you for including this data. This is what I've been asking for across the district at every campus. Information on subgroups. And when you look at it like this, what you stated, and I'm glad that you said it, thank you for saying it. Thank you, and I wrote it down, for being open and honest regarding the equity. When you don't see it like this, you don't realize the populations that are doing well and the populations that are slipping through the cracks. And when you don't see it like this, you can't plan for it. So your campus is able to see this, they're able to talk about it, they're able to say this subgroup is doing well here, and they're underrepresented here. So how can we address this? So thank you for that. Mr. Cagle, in your book that was reduced to a book, an anthology, the Reader's Digest version versus the college course version. Thank you for that. But you all did a great job. My question is, well, before I do that, thank you for addressing the adequate yearly progress and why that group was targeted. And it was, my question was, how, out of everybody that's struggling, how is the white population targeted for meets to masters? And she addressed that. It's because they're a targeted improvement campus and they have requirements from TEA. And then for Mr. Rhines, who gets to roar? That was my question.
Who gets to roar?
Yes.
So we do, it's funny you say that, because we're meeting next week to tweak some things. You have kids who sign up for it, and they have to actually apply to be in it, just like you would for a regular AVID. You have to apply for it. They have questions. Your parents have to fill out some information as well. We discussed, we'd love to have 2 more classes so that every seventh grader can do it. That's what I would like to have,
But you're starting somewhere.
we're starting, yeah.
So it's 7th graders who apply, get to roar, and they get to go to all of the colleges in the Metroplex?
I wish.
Okay, okay.
I wish. Right now, the 2 that we could get into were Tarleton and
Okay.
UNT.
In UNT?
Yeah, they were the ones that were doing tours. Other campuses, either they were booked up or they weren't doing tours.
Another component of that is like with Tarleton, we have the MOU with Tarleton that our graduates, you know, a certain percentage of our graduates, qualify for grant or loans, scholarships with them, sorry.
And I want to throw in there too, just give kudos to my staff. We had several students who could not afford the lunches, and our staff stepped up to make sure that every one of our kids that wanted the lunch could get lunch. So they're like
I will say that I did read everything that y'all sent, all of the books, and thank you for the data. It's very appreciative.
All right.
I have a couple. Thank you again. I thought it was amazing, very informative presentations by everybody. Thank you so much. I do have a follow-up on her question for Delaney with the sub-hops. So appreciated seeing that. Now, I have not had the benefit of really combing through the campus improvement plan in detail. Will I find specific steps and strategies to address those in your campus improvement plan?
Well, the teachers come in when we do the care team and we're looking at data. That will be a part of them coming in when we have is also how are the sub-hops doing? And looking at that. We look at them, the students individually, but we also want to look at the sub-hops and see how they're doing and what are the trends? And if there are some trends, how do we address those trends?
So in addition to like the trends, like some of that are underrepresented, African Americans being underrepresented in GT.
Correct.
Do you have strategies to identify students in that
GT
sub-hop?
training and just idea, I mean, it's not always what you think, you know, and what are they gifted in? And so training on identifying GT students.
Okay, so you do have some specific steps, it sounds like. Okay. Then my other question is, are other campuses, even though it wasn't included in the same way that you did it, are other campuses looking specifically at the subgroups as well? I did hear, like, obviously, overarching goals for all students for improvement, but are other campuses breaking it down like subgroups and have, again, specific strategies for whatever their data may look like as how to improve those areas?
In the campus improvement plan, it's broken down in charts on,
Okay, and yours as
for the
well?
most part, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's not
And there
in the
were
reader digest.
screeners for the GT as well.
There's what?
Correct?
The screeners.
In the system, there's the screeners for GT as well.
Okay.
So part of the comprehensive needs assessment process that we did in the spring, and there is a district one as well that I didn't upload into the plan, we break down the data into every sub-pop you can imagine, by ethnicity, by economic disadvantage, all the different things. And we look at it and we look at the different data points as well. And so it's a 4-hour presentation where we look at all of these different pieces. In addition to that part of the GT, you'll hear more about this, I think, in January. There's the equity program that we've implemented where we're looking at specific sub-hops and ones who may not, under the previous policy, qualified for GT screening, we're pulling them in and doing the screening with them anyway, and if they score at a certain threshold, then they move on with the GT testing, and that wasn't happening until last year. And so with that for that particular question, yes, you'll hear more about that when you hear the program overview for GT.
Okay. Thank you.
My question is to the group as a whole. The analogy I have is, last year on average, our kids could run a lap. They came back and they couldn't run 100 yards. In the first 6 weeks, are they able to run 110 yards as a group? I mean, are we making progress, or have they sat down because it's too much?
We're making progress.
We're making progress.
Absolutely. And as much pain as the accelerated, well, I shouldn't say pain, as much work as the accelerated instruction plans for each one, it has opened our eyes to the necessity for all students to have the opportunity for that accelerated instruction, because they all have gaps somewhere. And so even though some of them have targeted plans in DMAC that we track, that accelerated instruction helps bridge the gaps and fill in the holes that they might have while still meeting grade level teams.
And this might be a Dr. Devlin question, but are you sensing frustration that shows up as disciplinary issues because they're not able to get through it? Or is it disciplinary because they just completely out of the sync?
Both. I mean, some of it is because the bigger the gaps get, the more frustrated they become.
I spent some time this week reading through all of the discipline referrals that we've had across the district and reading the comments, and I would say yes, because there are discipline referrals. He came into class, he put his head down. I asked him to sit up and put his phone away. Then he cursed at me, and so clearly when a student comes to class and isn't engaged and then becomes combative, there's always the question about whether or not, is it the content, is there something going on in their personal life? But then when you see that over and over again, the student came into class, was doing fine. The teacher, there was one particular referral that talked about, the teacher said, I was introducing high-level content that the student needed to know. The student became combative, and so there is, and this is pervasive across all grade levels, and I've just had the opportunity recently to read it.
I think leads perfectly into Dr. Devlin.
And so with that in mind, Dr. Devlin is going to do the counseling overview tonight so that you can see all the different ways that we're working to address it, to target specific areas. The principals mentioned the social workers tonight a couple times, and that was, if you remember, those were brought in using the ESSER 3 money, and they've been a tremendous help, and they're a really nice addition to our staff.
Well, I appreciate y'all continuing to not give up when that frustration comes out.
Thanks.
He's up there, he wants to talk. I should do it.
I can give you some data. I don't know what I was gonna say. The good thing is, you know, we gave a lot of math testing at high school. This year we math tested, let me tell you. But we actually did the math test and then the algebra 1 geometry and the new subject test in math. But what was interesting is, I'll say this, in math, we scored at the national average in math, right? Our school average was right about national average. And this is mostly our 9th graders who come up from other campuses, 10th graders and some things like that. But the good thing, and the reason I bring that up is, and that is 10th grade data now. I'm going to check about the graph. So this is 10th grade data. I know that they scored right at the national average. And the good thing, what I know about the national normed average for math is that it is more than 2 years of data that they use to develop that mean average. So that included pre-COVID. So, right, their own data, their own mean would include not just COVID year, but previous to that. So we have some spots where our data shows that, hey, our kids are hanging in there. We'll know better in January if they're growing. You're asking some of those questions, but we've got some pockets of success, and I don't want to paint a picture of gloom and doom. And I tell people that all the time. In our first 9 weeks, we had some of the lowest failure rates that I've ever had as principal. And our seniors especially had incredibly good effort, behavior, passing rates. That older leadership group was pretty amazing. So I don't know if there's something to be said, but we've got some good data. I'm just trying to tell you, I don't want to paint a picture of gloom and doom, because we've got some data there that shows that, yeah, our kids can be successful. We've got some pockets definitely where we need to improve. But we've got gaps, but yes, our kids can grow. We've got more kids than ever because of House Bill 4545, probably at every campus in a spot to receive accelerated learning. So I think we're in a good position there. And then we've got good teachers in the district, I think, that are going to take care of the rest. I really do believe that. Are we going to hit all those gaps in 1 year? I don't know if that's
I don't
real,
expect
but
it to.
I think that we're in a good position. We've got good resources in our district. We're looking at everything from this tutoring program to the other stuff that we've purchased and the people that we've got. But yeah, I hope that's a long answer to your question. And I'm going to say discipline and stress. I'm seeing stress with kids and some issues that they're dealing with, all the way ranging from social, emotional issues. I talked about being more responsive on the campuses. We now have access to more social workers. We are actively probably having to, right now I'm seeing it, not at first, but now I'm seeing it as we're getting into the 9, 10, 11 week mark, and just after grade setting, I'm starting to see some kids really need to be pushed into that preferred directions, because now how they're dealing with accountability, and I got my report card and stress, and parents are now getting on to me. So, yeah, all that's real, and we'll see where it goes. But we got, I can tell the board the good thing is the decisions we made. We've got more data than ever. It's more aligned than ever.
More support.
Even Mr. Taylor knows what math is. No, I hate to say that, but this is new. It's new for our campus, and yeah, I just want to. I want you guys to remember we got a lot of pockets of success too. I mentioned all those clubs. I said everybody, you can go to Friday night with over 200 kids in that band and football team. Our football team grades were off the charts. Our volleyball team's grades were off the charts. Our cross-country teams are amazing. This is the best boys team we may have ever had in Kennedale. You know, we've had some good girls teams, but I said, go watch some kids be successful. We got Judy B. Jones on Saturday. If you want to watch some fine arts awesomeness. And, yeah, that's where we are. But academically, there's holes, there's pockets, but there's also some stuff I'm going, well, I look back down at the junior high, for instance, last spring in science. And I also got our ACT reports, so I'm looking at math, I'm looking at what we're doing in ACT, and I'm going, you know what, in math, our kids blow the water out of the national average in science. And they stopped that really testing in 8th grade, right? That was 8th grade. Our 8th graders blew away the national average in science. But guess what we're doing on the ACT? I'm seeing strong correlations to what we're doing in the math on that, and even that, we've actually had a 5-year gain in our ACT scores, while the national average has slipped down, and so, I don't know, there's good things. Does that answer your question?
It does, I just, again, unfortunately, I get it this year at home, you know, and like the MAP test itself, for some kids, that test is just too long. And we don't take that into account.
Academic stamina
That's a good point.
has been a challenge.
And-
They're
and-
getting there, but they weren't ready when they came
And I'm
out.
saying from beginning of the year, we have to think about that, the kids who 18 months of no rigor, sit down for an hour and a half test or however long it is.
School structures and academic
Are they,
standards.
is that improving so we can at least check box that maybe the next test they'll have that strength to sit through it? Okay, thank you.
This time, 2019, before the pandemic, we have fewer discipline referrals across all the campuses. And I credit social workers, the work that the principals are doing with PBIS. Yes, there are challenges, of course, but before the pandemic, at the same time, we want to keep those kids in class, right? When they're not able to stay in class, they're certainly not learning, and so our principals have done such a nice job with PBIS and working with the students and connecting with them and teaching those very explicit behaviors. And so that's a celebration that doesn't come up a lot.
Bring up any new issues, and we go. Then I think we move on to 10B, Dr. Devlin.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So tonight you have a brief presentation on counseling services programmatic overview. We're just going to look at the programs we offer, how we're supporting currently our students, and some small data snippets as well. So who comprises of our department? We have one counselor per every campus, and we have 2 counselors at the high school campus. We have 1 social worker for our elementary and intermediate campuses. We have 1 communities and school social worker for our junior high, and 1 communities and school social worker for our high school. Coming soon, we hope to have an additional social worker as well as providing support to our lower grades into what we have. So a total staff of 10 is coming. We have, we train and meet regularly. We meet by grade level in PLCs bi-weekly, and then we have department meetings as well. So the framework in which we follow is a Texas Comprehensive School Guidance Counseling Program, It's a 150-page document on how to implement counseling programs in Texas public schools. And this is a snippet of how counselors spend their time. It was updated in 2018. So ideally, they're spending their time in these 4 domains of guidance, curriculum, responsive services, individual planning, and system support. And then within those domains, addressing these 10 responsibility domains as well. And so they track that by turning in program forms every month and how they're planning to spend their time on their campuses supporting students and staff. So just a little bit about data. You guys were talking about what is landing in counselor's office, what is happening on campuses as far as climate. So counselors collect data every time a student lands in their office, what was the referral reason in which a student came to see them. Teacher can fill it out, administrator, or they fill it out to collect that. And we look at that every 9 weeks and see kind of what the top 3 to 4 trends are that are landing in their offices and see if we need to make any changes, pivots to programs and support. So we just concluded the first 9 weeks of this school year. And this is a snapshot of our elementary, pre-K through 6th grade and secondary of what's landing in counselors' offices. And I know that font is small, but you'll see in the elementary classes, we have peer relationships and family concerns and disruption in class as being the top 3, and then anxiety being the 4th as far as what's landing in their office. And of course, what initially presents in the office can always find layers to might be underlying concern, but that was their initial referral reason. And for secondary, we always and typically have a lot more academic schedule changes, looking at post-secondary readiness and advising as well, and then conflicts with peers, stress and anxiety, and self-esteem starts to show up in the secondary grade levels. So what do we do with this data? We also look at the current legislative changes and what is coming down from the state level and how we need to spend our time, what we need to address in character education, and always, of course, bullying came out with a recent legislative update as well. And we have to report instances of bullying and cyberbullying this year in relation to some other supportive measures that we will update in policy. Everything's updated as it needs to be. We're waiting on TASB and TA to give us some more guidance on that. But I also wanted to share just our current data for substantiated bullying reports. It is Bullying Awareness Month. Unity Day was yesterday as well. And I think a lot of times that word gets utilized, and we as a district follow a very, very detailed process, and our administrators do checklists and report forms and actually determining if bullying in fact happened. So for this school year, as of today, actually I pulled, we have 3 substantiated bullying reports for the district as far as bullying having occurred in a school program or campus. And so that could change tomorrow, but we do track that locally and report that in PEAMS, and we'll continue to do so. So with that, we make sure that we're responding appropriately to the data. And Dr. Vu mentioned our MTSS program, and SEL falls into that as well. And so with the data, we ideally are hitting the majority of our students in Tier 1 with our guidance curriculum, where counselors K through 8 are going into the classrooms and seeing every student, providing an aligned curriculum that we'll talk about in just a minute. And then from that, we have a smaller group that gets pulled in for responsive services for a small group or individual one-on-one counseling sessions, and then a smaller group for Tier 3 that would be maybe referred to more intentional services or more regular services seen by the campus counselor or social worker. And again, as I spoke on the counselor planning form, they submit these to myself and their campus principal at the beginning of every month on how their time is going to be spent in those 4 domains. So some supports that we have with SEL, when quarantine happened, as everyone did, we shifted our counseling program to online and kind of have grown from there. So we still maintain our counseling at home site for our parents and students that they can check regularly. It has SEL activities to yoga lessons, to relaxation rooms that they can go to. And we also have Parent U, which we'll speak on more in detail. We also, Ms. Spitzer was talking about our KISD Counseling SEL Toolkit. We developed this last year. It's locally created, and it is by grade level and by topic. So what the counselors have done is every topic that they go over with their second step guidance curriculum have found additional activities for classroom teachers to expound upon that topic in their classroom with their students. And so teachers can go in and look at this for the month of October, go to the week, the topic, it's all drilled down for them and pull up the activity, and it'll align with what their counselor had reviewed with them that month. So we have built the capacity for that for the entire school year. It took a whole year to build, but they did a phenomenal job in doing that. So we have the SEL toolkit to support for our teachers as well. In addition, we have our KISD Counseling Services site, which is an in-house site to support our administrators and counselors for resources, plans and programs if counselors are ever off campus and so forth. With our bullying prevention, same three, staff, students, and families, how we're supporting that. Our staff receive training every year that we house and vector through Safe Schools on bullying awareness and identification. Again, we have the SEL toolkit in building capacity for relationships and being able to identify that in the classroom. And then, as Dr. Wu mentioned, our Wildcat Wire that you guys get to read as well, and that provides information to them monthly on ideas and suggestions and also resources for them to utilize. For our students, we have our SEL guidance curriculum, second step, that we administer pre-K through 8th grade. We have our anonymous reporting tool that we have to have per legislation for Friends for Life, that students, parents, teachers can go on and report any activity they'd like to report in relation to student safety. We have Edgenuity, which is our 7th through 12th grade SEL program that students can do get on when they have a report of bullying that has been substantiated, and do some extra modules on bullying and relationship and peer conflict. We also have additional support staff with our communities and schools and social workers that we have this year to support students and families. For our families, we have Parent U, which is a program that we kicked off about 3 years ago, where we present many workshop-based programs for our parents. We have Wildcat Wire Family Edition, our Counseling at Home site, and then Resilient Kids, which is a grant we earned, which we will get into more detail. Second step, we talked a lot about instructional alignment. We now have full guidance alignment. This is year 2 of every campus. Pre-K through 8 has a second step. And so our counselors have consistent curriculum for their guidance lessons. So per classroom and then per grade level, it builds upon each content area. And it is now digital. They also have switched to an online format, and it has very interactive activities, videos, and content that gets delivered for the classrooms by our campus counselors. We also have our Paw Pride Awards. You guys heard from some of the campus improvement plans. These are locally created 7 core character traits that counselors teach on with their guidance lessons. And every month we have partnered with our CTE graphic design students. They design certificates for the students that get nominated, and those awards go home every month on who's exhibited that trait the best based off teacher nominations. In addition, our second step program aligns with the TEKS that were required for Texas positive behavior traits, and so it goes really well together in those curriculum lessons. Parent U, if you guys have seen these on our website, last year we switched to pre-recorded mini workshop videos with our CTE audiovisual students. And so we discuss things from programs that are offered on campuses. Today, actually, Ms. Simmons and Ms. Tovar, our junior high counselor and junior high communities and schools, recorded one on peer relationships and bullying that will go out to families next week. In addition, we did receive a grant with Rotary that we have partnered with Resilient Kids, and so this is a 13-week evidence-based parenting program that we're going to roll out here soon once we're fully staffed in our counseling services program, where we offer a 13-week program for parents that they can come and get lessons. It started out in Fort Worth ISD, and now it's nationwide, and we're very excited to offer it and kick it off here soon. So as always, our goal is that every child has a relationship with an adult in the building that they feel like they can go to, a safe place to learn and grow. And we continue to look through our data, see where we can improve, and make adjustments as needed. That is all I had. If you guys have any questions.
On the left.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask one question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I know that we've been talking about additional pressures that the kids are going through right now since coming back from COVID and all that. The stress that they're under. But I also know that there's an effort to reduce the amount of referrals. Okay, can you kind of speak to that clash? It seems like they're kind of, they're going to clash somewhere.
Reduce the amount of discipline referrals? Yes.
I'm gonna talk to that more in our closed session. I will talk about that. But you go.
Well, our counselors work closely with our administrators to see students who might need additional resources for a variety of reasons. I will say, in meeting with the counselors, it's been an adjustment for everyone coming back to school, getting into a routine, just kind of going back to the basics for some of our students. We looked at, just realizing and sitting and thinking that for our current 7th graders, 4th grade was their last normal year of school. And so when you put it in that perspective, that's a big adjustment to go from 4th grade to 7th and having a regular school year. And so we've made adjustments as needed. We definitely do want to decrease discipline referrals. Our goal is not necessarily ever to decrease counseling referrals, but just to see how we can better support our students based on that data.
So, anybody else have a question?
I do, but I was trying not to ask. I am gonna do it. So when we're talking about bullying, you say that 3 were substantiated, and you may not have this data right now, you may have to bring it back.
Sure.
So if 3 were substantiated, how many were actually reported?
Currently, right now, we had 4 full investigations for this school year, and 3 were substantiated from that.
Were they from the same campus? Is it a repeat offender?
No, they were from different campuses.
I'm asking this question because we get snippets of information about bullying.
Sure.
So whatever the system is that the district has, like I said, we get snippets. So when you say there are 3 substantiated, Mr. Cagle told us to ask the question of, what do we not ask? So if 3 were substantiated, how many more were there?
What do we not
Thank you,
see?
Mr.
What do we
Cagle.
not say?
What do we not see?
So,
No, that's a great question. And I will say just education in general, and like in our most recent Wildcat Wire for Families, educating kind of our process, how to report for, how families can report, parents can report. A lot of times schools, campuses aren't aware something happened until the parent does.
Right.
And then they call in and let us know, and then we investigate it. So as soon as we hear the word or know that something has happened that needs to be investigated, the process in which they have to go through is very detailed. So we do take it very seriously, but
Well,
the
that's
number.
not bad. If only 4 were reported and 3 of the 4, even though it's bad that they're being bullied, I'm not saying that. But for the number of students that we have and the information that we get, my child's being bullied and they're not doing anything about it. But if there are only 4 that've been reported and 3 of the 4, that's.
And part of it is they're reporting it on social media, and that's not a report that we can use. I don't like bullies. I never have. I was a small kid, but I had a very big brother. And so a lot of times I didn't know about things happening because my brother had taken care of it. But it's one of those things that I just wish parents, students, whoever, if there is an issue, tell it to somebody so we can actually look into it and try to get both of the kids or whoever's doing the bullying some help. And that's just my 2 cents.
And I would, at the end of your surveys, I will say the perception of bullying is far higher than the actual reported bullying, and so perception is reality. So we definitely have some areas to address there, and educating and looking at that. But our actual reports of bullying are low.
I met with someone today from Full Troops, and one feature that they have that we now have access to that we're going to work on, I sent her email today, is you can get a QR code. You can put it in the bathrooms, you can put it on buses, you can put it on the entrance, you can put all kinds of things, and you scan the QR code, and it'll take you to the report for bullying. So maybe part of it is a lack of awareness of how to find the form or what to do, but doing that, it'll capture the data immediately, and so they can do it on their phones. are trying to make progress in that area as well, because we recognize that if the survey perceptions say there's so much bullying, but our reports say that there isn't as much, that we need to be proactive in addressing it, and so we're doing that.
Thank you.
We're continuing to blame Mr. Cagle for asking what we don't know.
You raised your hand and you waited so patiently. I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
I don't want to speak on Dr. Devil, but to answer your question, quite often when we, of course there's stuff on social media, but when we call the parent, talk to the student, they retract that and say, okay, no. Once we give the definition of what is considered bullying, they change it and say, no, this kid is just bothering my kid, or he's being a jerk or something like that. So they retract the bullying part. So it might start off with those words, but they usually change them out until we get the investigation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Off the top of your head, the portal that allows an anonymous reporting of bullying, how many reports, if you know, have we had anonymously about bullying?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I'll say this year, we haven't had many. It's not of course, it can be utilized pre-K through 12. So often it's typically secondary who has access to make such reports. It's very small, the reports that come through the anonymous line. And perhaps maybe changing it to our Qualtrics and having it more accessible, scan codes around, that might very well change.
And that requirement came along with David's law,
David's.
sorry, David's law, which was a requirement that you have an anonymous reporting tool. I think students just don't take advantage of it.
And that's society. They'd rather put it on social media in a public way versus report it through a portal to get information to the district. I mean, it boggles my mind.
And one thing we really worked on, or are working on this month, is educating students on how they can make reports, and families as well. And so the counselors have been working on that in their lessons.
Anybody else have a question?
And one more. I just want to make sure I'm clear on the process based on a couple comments. At one point, you said there was 4 that were fully investigated, and 3 of those 4 were substantiated. Are there other reports, and how many are those reports that say bullying, but then don't meet the definition, that are thrown out because there's not follow-up? I mean, are there other categories, or have we really completely had only 4 reports that were fully investigated with only 3 substantiated?
Correct, we have, yeah. So anytime they do a report, an investigation, we still record those numbers. So even if it's not substantiated, we always record the numbers of how many reports are coming in.
So even if I reported it and the definition at some point was determined to not really meet, the issue did not meet the definition of bullying, would that still go on the category of a parent reported bullying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If they did, yes, they completed investigation, it does, yes.
Okay.
Or are you saying just a phone call and they say, no, that's not bullying, so that's not a full report, so that
Right.
wouldn't count?
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
These it's investigated, if a bullying investigation is held, that is what the numbers we keep recorded.
But if it's determined not, then the
Okay, so then
report's
that
not
goes
done.
back to my original question. So, if I call anyone and say my child's being bullied, and then I call back and say, no, they're not, that's not counted in this.
If if you call and say your student's being bullied, we will do an investigative report, and that would be counted.
Okay.
If you call and don't, tell them to stop before they do the investigation, it doesn't.
That's one of the things we talked about this week, with just with the principals. If you hear the B word, and the B word warrants an investigation, it doesn't matter any,
Okay.
Right, so then
Even
therefore,
better.
yeah,
Yeah. And
so
that was
then that,
something that we,
So
Okay.
if I understand you correctly, you're asking, do we know how many unsubstantiated cases?
yeah, they just said one.
One.
Well, no, that's if there was an investigation.
Right, that's
That-
correct.
Okay,
That's,
yes,
no, that's rural.
That's correct.
So I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're asking.
That's
what
correct.
you just said is what I'm asking.
Yes, which is what I asked as well.
Which,
in follow-up.
yeah, which is what I started asking,
Started to say.
and we got an answer,
So
but then.
that's a data point that you.
What did you just say?
She just said if they use the B word.
There's an investigation.
No, that's what she said now, what she said today. She's
if
asking
someone
for
to call my
That's what I'm
office
gonna ask
with the
right
B
now.
word, you need to do investigation.
But is that the way the process has been the whole school year, or now because we've identified the issue?
That's always been the process.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of, has there ever been a case of someone using the B word and they're not in an investigation? Not to my knowledge. It's possible, not to my knowledge, and that's why we talked about it this week, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page that this is the execution.
Okay, so then I have one more follow-up question for Mr. Ryan. So in your example, if I'm the parent and I call and I say my kid was being bullied, and I get a phone call back from an administrator that says, well, tell me what happened, and then when I say what happened and we go over the definition of bullying, at that point, would it still be on a report of bullying, or would we have sort of informally resolved it and it's not even counted in the statistics of that's what I initially said to you?
Because in that conversation, it's, oh, he's just being mean or something.
Yeah, because that's sort of being administratively handled versus going in the stats about a bully report initially.
They fill out the
Okay.
report.
You still do the report, so you still put information out. What I was saying is that when it gets to us, normally by that time they have changed it and said, no,
Okay.
that's not it.
So who are they reporting it to before it gets to you?
Us.
I think that's.
Yeah, we get emails about it.
And we send it there, they go, no.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Often it's on social.
Okay.
Well, we can,
Often we get the screenshot.
there's a lot of ways. We've got Campus Crime Stoppers Friends for Life. I mean, it's different forms of reports. They like that.
Uh-huh.
And so
Students
we've got a tip
reporting.
line in the district. We have, it tells, we've actually had friends that advocate for friends. They might come to the office or some things. I've had those things happen. A lot of direct things, admissions to kids or things directly to a teacher, administrator, or counselor. Or we see things on social media, phone calls. Parents have let us know things, but I think it's really common right now, just friends looking out for other friends. A lot of times it's how we might get some reports from time to time.
So I don't want to belabor it, but it still seems a little confusing to me because like you just said, all those methods of reporting, they're reporting it somehow, some way to somebody, but by the time it gets to administration, the story may have changed or lessened the degree of what the issue was. And I'm wondering, are those still getting in the numbers and the stats of reports?
Yes, if bullying lands in their offices, they're filling out an investigative report, and those are their numbers.
That can't be. Mr. Cagle just mentioned 4 different ways, 5 different ways that people are reporting bullying, but we only have 4. So if, the math, if you've got 5 different ways and they're using those 5 different ways, then there has to be more than 4.
If they used it.
If they're using it.
And I'm speaking over the years.
Okay,
so
all right, and then that
make
gets us
sure-
back to the
and
4.
This is not things that
Okay.
happened this week.
Very good, or this, even this year.
Things that happened the day before Mr. Cagle came to the board meeting.
We have multitude of ways for them to report,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes, and,
so
but,
that answers the
We're
question.
certainly not, we're gonna experience those things at Kennedale ISD, like I think anywhere, or, I listed as one of our campus strengths. I've asked the kids, like in parent meetings.
I can assure you, they're not being ignored.
No, it's not
They're-
not being
Right.
ignored, it's
Right.
just trying to
The
get
4 is-
clarification about the numbers.
sure.
Yeah.
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 And I double
I
check.
had class meetings, I just say with our freshmen, sophomores, each of the groups, and I even asked guys, I tell them, I said very straightly, I said, you know, one of the things about Kennedale, we are a very diverse place, we are a very inclusive place. I said, we've got a range of kiddos. You guys come to the high school one day. It's an awesome place, but every kid's got an opportunity to fit in no matter where they are. And you'll ask, I asked them straight up, do you feel like any group doesn't fit in? Do you feel like any group's bullied? Not the individuals, of course, but just in groups. And
Okay,
give you or
thank you.
anything like that. And,
No,
You
that's
just
helpful for
answered the
me,
question.
I
because,
said, we're not exempt from going
Right.
any place on earth, but, and we gotta work through those things. We do have kids and we do have human beings at our campuses and,
Okay, so, over two years and 10 months ago, when you and I sat down and we talked about the strengths of your department, weaknesses, where you wanna go, where have we gone in those 2 years and 10 months with counseling?
We've aligned our SEL guidance curriculum. We have more support staff, of course, and more just consistent services and programs, and then more supports for our teachers in the classroom.
And I think that's a big key.
Yeah.
And a big focus on SEL.
Yes, yes.
So,
and I just want to say as a final comment, I'm not suggesting that there's anything nefarious going on with the statistics. It just helps as a community partner to really understand the process so that we can help dispel the myths and help really have accurate information, an accurate picture of what's going on because of some of the perception that has been reported for before. It's good to learn that is not the accurate facts and understand the process. That's all I'm asking such detailed questions for.
Thank
So
you.
I
thank
think
you.
the surprise is around the number. I think there was an expectation that it would be a lot higher. And maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but that's what I'm hearing up here.
You're correct.
And when we say there's only 4, wow, that is really great.
Which is still good, which
We
is
got
still
that
good.
email. We got that
Okay.
email.
Which is still good.
You all got that email.
As of today,
But then it'd be
Yeah.
5 and 4.
Fair enough.
All right, we
Fair enough. Yeah,
We got a long special session.
Okay.
good. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you all.
So we have completed the regular agenda. We are going to now adjourn into closed session to discuss item 7C, under closed sections, Government Code Section 551.074. Other matters concerning personnel, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 or 551.074 if needed. We're going to discuss safety and security in KISD, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.076, and discuss district-owned property, a closed section pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072. And as far as I know, everybody can go home, except for
Tracy, Ms. Mode, Dr. Vu, and these 2 gentlemen here. All right.
so thank you all.
If everybody else could like expedite yourselves out of here, that would be awesome. So we got a long closed session, so.
time.
It is 9:58. We are reconvening into regular session. It is 12:44. We have 2 items that will require action after executive closed session. We'll come back to item 7C, consider impossible action regarding contract abandonment.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to request sanctions to the teacher certificates of Chelsea Strephon, finding that good cause did not support the employee's abandonment of contract.
Motion by Mr. Bisco.
Second.
Second by Mr. Glover. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair hears none. That motion passes unanimously. We then move to item 7D, I'm sorry,
Still 7C.
7C, regarding possible action regarding contract abandonment.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to request sanctions to the teacher certificate of Cheryl Snow, finding that good cause did not support the employee's abandonment of contract.
Motion by Mr. Bisco,
Second.
second by Mr. Glover. Is there further discussion? Chair hears none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair hears none. That motion passes unanimously. We have completed the entire agenda except for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by,
Second.
motion by Mr. Glover and seconded by multiple people. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nobody opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you for the long night. I apologize. We couldn't make it shorter.